A1 towards the city centre at the scene of an accident, causing long queues back onto the M2 and the A12. In North Yorkshire, the A169 remains closed between the Lockton turn-off north of Pickering and slights, of course, south of Whitby off the A171. Investigation works taking place following an accident yesterday afternoon. In West London, we're just hearing that the A408 Sipson Road has been blocked through Harmondsworth at the scene of a crash. And, of course, varied closures still in place in West London through Notting Hill, North Kensington and Westbourne Green till the early hours of tomorrow morning for the Notting Hill Carnival. And, of course, Ladbroke Grove Underground Station also closed. Back to the roads briefly, north of Bridge End, the A4064, shut in Brynmennon and Llancanor for accident investigation work. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
With record temperatures expected this week, how do zoos keep their cooler creatures cold? Well, at Yorkshire Wildlife Park, the polar bears are enjoying a vegetable ice block.
Polar bears, they do have quite a variety of different temperatures that they naturally do find. Once they're moving off these polar ice caps, they are in the likes of down in the areas of Canada, Hudson Bay. Naturally, they were finding polar bears in 35-degree temperatures year upon year. So they are very much used to warm temperatures and heat waves as such. What you'll tend to find is they'll go for a good swim and then go for a snooze in the shade thereafter.
Not wanting to miss out, the sea lions are treated to a huge fish lolly.
In the hot weather, it's really important to give them ice because these guys, they don't drink salt water. These pools are actually saltwater pools. They actually drink fresh water. They've got 2 freshwater pools in their house, but again, being able to provide that in their outside enclosure is also really important. So offering them ice with their fish is not only enriching, but it's actually beneficial to their welfare as well.
Other animals like the lemurs will be basking in the sun, but also cooling down with frozen sweet potato.
So we've got 3 different species of lemur here. They come in all different shapes, colours, sizes, but they are native to Madagascar. Madagascar can get quite hot, understandably, so throughout the cold months here in Yorkshire, we do give them a nice heated house all year round, but especially making sure it's nice and warm in the winter for them. And it does mean that in the hot spells as well that we're able to keep our eyes on them and try and give them things that make them a bit more comfortable with that incoming hot weather as well.
The frozen food on offer here certainly has the seal of approval on what could be the hottest day of the year.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Monday, the 26th of August. Happy bank holiday out there. Live across the United Kingdom, this is Britons Newsroom with Ben Leo, that's him, and me, Dawn Neeson, in for Andrew and Bev.
That is me, good morning. Things can only get worse. That's before they get better. That's according to the Prime Minister this week as he sets out Britain's long road to recovery. He reckons 10 years.
I don't remember that in the manifesto, do you? Winter fuel payment rift. Pressure is on the PM as unrest grows in his cabinet over cuts to the winter fuel allowance.
And breaking overnight, 40 fire engines and around 225 firefighters are battling a fire at a block of flats in Dagenham in East London. More than 100 people have been evacuated and the advice is to avoid the area.
Indeed. And meanwhile, carnival chaos. 90 arrests and a 32-year-old woman in a critical condition after being stabbed at Notting Hill Carnival's main parade. As Notting Hill Carnival's main parade gets underway today.
And are you feeling supersonic? Oasis look definitely maybe set to announce a comeback tomorrow at 8 a.m. Better roll with it until then, eh? We'll have all the latest. Sorry, Dawn. Once again, it's my duty to tell everybody that I did not write those puns.
I was just say, full disclaimer, that was nothing to do with us, right? OK. But Sally's not waiting anymore. Hey.
I am excited, though, for Oasis.
Yeah.
Are you a Oasis fan?
Not a fan, but I have seen them a couple of times, including that amazing Nebworth gig, where literally everybody went there, and at Main Road as well.
Pretty good, pretty good. Well, I must say, I'd rather see Oasis at Wembley than Taylor Swift, but each to their own.
Yeah, me too. I must admit, that is a definite. But lots of people love it. Look, lots of people love Taylor. We're not having a go. The lovely Ellie adores Taylor Swift. She does indeed.
Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Oasis, are they one of our greatest British exports, or do you not really care? Anyway.
Yeah, exciting. I think it's exciting in any case. But first, let's go for the news headlines with the very lovely Sophie Reaper.
Thank you, Ben and Dawn. Now for your latest headlines from the GB Newsroom. A developing story this morning. A major incident has been declared after a fire broke out at a block of flats in Dagenham. It's reported that more than 100 people have been evacuated from the building, with the London Fire Brigade stating that a significant search and rescue operation is now underway. MP for the area, Margaret Mullane, has posted her thanks to the fire service online, saying thanks to their rapid response, injury was minimal. She added that she'll be visiting the rescue centre today to offer her support. We'll bring you the latest on this story as we get it. A British man has been killed by a missile strike in eastern Ukraine. He's been named as safety advisor Ryan Evans. The 38-year-old was part of a reporting crew working with the news agency Reuters when the hotel they were staying at in Kramatorsk was struck on Saturday. The agency has said they are devastated by his death and that they are now urgently seeking more information about the attack. The strike also put 2 other journalists in hospital, one of whom remains in a serious condition. 3 people were stabbed yesterday at the annual Notting Hill Carnival, with 1 woman being left in a life-threatening condition. Police have also said that 15 officers were assaulted and 90 arrests were made on the first day of the event. A heavy police presence is now expected today for the main parade as it passes through the streets of West London. And in the Middle East, tensions have escalated between Israel and Hezbollah after an exchange of fire on both sides. The Israeli military carried out a series of airstrikes in southern Lebanon early yesterday morning, saying it believed Hezbollah was planning to carry out an attack of its own. The Iran-backed militants then launched drones at Israel, allegedly as reaction to the killing of one of its top commanders in an airstrike on Beirut last month. In response to this, British Foreign Secretary David Lammy has urged restraint on both sides. Those are your latest GB News headlines. For now, I'm Sophie Reaper. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very good morning, 9:34. Ben and Dawn with you on this, I was going to say glorious bank holiday, but when I came into work this morning, it was spitting and a bit blustery.
I think it's going to get better.
Is it?
I think things can only get better. There's a theme going on here, isn't there?
So that's obviously the tone of Sir Keir Starmer's speech tomorrow, saying that things are going to get worse before they get better, which I said to you off air is it's a stark contrast of the polar opposite to, say, Tony Blair's campaign, because the song was Things can only get better.
You're actually singing live on telly, Ben.
I know. Shall I stop?
Sorry.
Shall I stop?
We would like to offer a sincere apology for anyone that's been offended by that. You know who to complain to. But yeah, no, it's not the positive message we were all expecting from the election manifesto, was it?
No.
The promise of growth and positivity, and we know what you're going through, and it's time for change.
And I mentioned last night on a show I did, you know, people like Andrew Marr, who came out with, in my opinion, a completely ridiculous piece of analysis saying in the days after the election, Britain is now a haven of peace and stability and the grown-ups are back in the room. Well, clearly not. I mean, Britain's been anything but a haven of peace and stability.
53 days. We've had riots, we've had pensioners given a good kicking. What else? I mean, where do you even start? But Sir Keir Starmer is saying that Labour need a whole decade to rebuild the country after Conservatives left Britain in ruin and rubble. Their words, not mine.
Yeah, and it comes as the Conservatives asked the Prime Minister to reveal who gave a Downing Street pass to a millionaire who donated £500,000 to the Labour Party in the election campaign, and, I may add as well, 10 grand to the MP's son of Sue Gray.
Yes, that was interesting, wasn't it? And Sir Keir is facing growing unrest within his own party over his plans to cut the winter fuel payments. Joining us now in the studio to delve down into what the hell's going on, because we're all confused, is former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett. Matthew, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Matthew, I just want to start with this. Things are going to get worse. Now, this is either admirable honesty from a politician, we're not used to, obviously, or it's a bit like, well, hold on a minute, that's not what you were saying in the run-up to the general election. That's not what we voted for you. It's all going to be a bit rubbish.
Yeah, I think people will be surprised, and I think people probably feel like they need a bit of a pick-me-up after scenes that we've seen over the last few weeks. But I think ultimately, you know, anyone that travels up and down the country and speaks to ordinary voters will always hear the same things of why don't politicians just tell us the truth? And actually, I think Keir Starmer probably is here because he has inherited a poor economy, which pales in comparison to Tony Blair, who actually inherited an economy that was just about turning a corner under John Major. And I think it does make a bit of a change from sort of the Mary Poppins politics that we've had from the last few leaders. Boris Johnson said he would get Brexit done, and people will argue that actually we're still sort of half in and tied a lot to the EU. Liz Truss said that she would increase growth, and actually that's gone backwards in her 49 days, and Rishi Sunak made sort of five promises that he couldn't keep, maybe didn't have the time to. So I think rather than people being given their gruel and being told there's a spoonful of sugar on the way and maybe some misguided hope, I think it's maybe quite nice for people to go, yeah, things aren't great.
So, Matthew, are you suggesting that Labour have not been given a decent economy?
Yeah, I don't think they have. I think you ask anybody whose mortgages has gone up, ask the 6 million children in poverty, the waiting lists that are through the roof in both our courts and our NHS.
Well, look, I'd argue they've been given a litany of economic gifts. Inflation is coming down. Bank of England interest rates have come down. In turn, mortgages have come down. GDP figures, the last 6 months' GDP figures were the best in 7 years, totally eclipsing Europe. I mean, there was nothing to do with Labour. That was the gifts that the Tories, something decent they did for once in their final months of chaos. But Labour are now enjoying those economic gifts. So in what way aren't they inheriting a decent economy?
Because if you think about this politically and you go and speak to Joe Bloggs on the street, are they feeling the benefit of the GDP? Are they feeling the benefit of the so-called gifts? I don't know anybody that feels like they've been given a gift, unless you're a public sector worker more recently who's told they're getting a pay increase, don't get me wrong. But I think people don't feel the benefit, and therefore for him to be going out and offering a sort of spoonful of sugar and say, you know, things are getting better, you'll sit there and go, no, it's not. I spent 8 hours in A&E the other night. I'm waiting for justice through the court system. So I don't think people will feel the benefit, which is why I think politically this may work, despite it seeming odd to some people.
But, I mean, the thing is, I mean, there is money. I mean, I don't mind them saying this. I love politicians being honest. It is a very, very rare thing. But as Ben was saying just then, I'm not entirely sure that it's you know, the black hole that they've discovered that most people seem to know about apart from the Labour Party. I'm not sure they do need to be that pessimistic. I mean, surely the point is to give us a little bit of hope. I mean, they've given inflation-busting pay rises to public sector workers. They've dished out 15% to train drivers. So there is goodwill there. And at the same time, they're giving, I keep coming back to this, I'm sorry, but it does make me angry, giving a kick into pensioners. Pensioners are on £11,500 a year.
I totally agree with you on that. I think it is poor judgment politically to be taking the money away from pensioners in the winter fuel allowance. I think it can be painted as callous, and I think people's parents where I grew up still talk about Thatcher being a milk snatcher, and these things sometimes have a habit of sticking with you. So it's one idea to maybe get the bad stuff out of the way early, but you've got to be careful that doesn't stick with you. So no, I agree on that. And on the inflation-busting pay rises, I think if you look at the last time the train drivers got a pay rise, that was 2019, and if you add up inflation since 2019, it's actually 30%. So it's actually a real terms pay cut. Now, people at home might not be happy with that sort of picture that I've painted, but that's the truth.
Yeah, Matthew, I can guarantee most of the people at home probably never got a pay rise in the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah, no. And they should, I agree.
But there does appear to be money there. We've also increased foreign aid as well. So there does, and we're talking about spending an awful lot of money on the Great British Energy Scheme, which no one seems to be able to explain exactly what that actually even is or what it's going to do. So we seem to have money for all of that sort of thing, but telling ordinary people things are going to get worse. And what is this with the tax situation? We're not going to tax working people anymore. National insurance we're not going to touch. But they've watered that down already to say, well, we're not going to touch employees' national insurance, but if you're an employer, so they're already fudging that. So, again, it's back to the whole flip-flop situation.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, Labour are going to have quickly found out that it's much easier to be in opposition than it is in government. And the government is about tough decisions and about political priorities. And I think maybe it could be argued that Labour are looking after their voter base, which many are public sector workers and therefore have just received a pay rise. Older people don't tend to vote Labour, and maybe there is a conscious choice to...
Either.
Well, no, quite. So maybe there is something in that. Personally, I think it's poor political judgment, and what I would like to see actually is when the budget comes in a few weeks' time, is rather than the rabbit out of the hat being a policy, Rachel Reeves to go, do you know what? I've stood up, I've listened, and we're not going to do that to you this winter. I think that would be fantastic.
I was going to say, Matthew, you are an advisor. A former advisor, would that be your advice now? Because a lot of anger. I mean, Reeves is facing revolt in the Commons. I mean, we're only, 53 days into this government, and already a lot of Labour ministers are saying, look, and backbench MPs are saying, we can't do this. This isn't right.
Yeah, I mean, you'll speak to Labour MPs yourself. Their inboxes are bulging with this sort of stuff. And if there's one thing we do know about old people, whether they tend to vote Labour or not, is they vote, and they will go out and vote with their feet.
Yeah.
So I think I would certainly advise it. I believe the reports say that she doesn't want to be seen as weak and U-turning at her first sort of big decision. But I think it makes, and also you've got to think about the what might come down the line. If you've got a situation where backbench MPs are feeling so under pressure that they may rebel on this sort of vote on a budget, particularly if an amendment is put forward similar to the one we've had recently on the two-child cap, you're making a further political headache, making certain MPs look like martyrs rather than just doing what seems to be the common sense thing.
And what about this cronyism hypocrisy? Because for years we had Starmer, Reeves, Angela Rayner banging on about the stench of Tory sleaze and cronyism and jobs for the boys and so on. It goes on, and yet within a couple of weeks of taking power, Labour have given plumb, politically neutral civil service jobs to former aides, to donors. This millionaire, Lord Ali, was given a Downing Street pass. It turns out he's donated £500,000 to the Labour campaign, 10 grand to Sue Gray's son, who's now a Labour MP. I mean, that puts Tory sleaze, it makes them look like a bunch of amateurs, doesn't it, the Conservatives, when it comes to cronyism?
It's not a great look, is it? I mean, I'm not here to defend the Labour Party. I will always say what I think is right and fair.
Do you think they're hypocrites? Can you accept that?
It looks that way. I think, from what Henry Newman and others say that know this world a little bit better than I do, I unfortunately only ever did opposition. I think if you're given a low-level civil service job and you tie yourself to a politician as almost a policy advisor, that's sort of something you can maybe get away with and is sort of common practice. When you've seen people go in at a senior level, and when you had the gentleman who made a donation to Rachel Reeves of 10 grand and was given a senior level, questions are obviously going to be raised. I think with Wahid Ali, I think, him giving money to Sue Gray's son, I think is actually just good politics. You want to stay close to the people on the in. And I think it's tricky, his situation, because if he was a donor and was given a pass, that raises a lot of questions. I think it becomes a little bit confusing because he is a Labour politician as well. He just happens to have a lot of money. He's a Labour peer. He's got a lot of experience, don't get me wrong, and was a big part of the Blair years. His one is a little bit tricky, but certainly the ones where they've gone into civil service roles, doesn't look great and could be open to charges of hypocrisy.
Yeah, Matthew Talbot, thank you very much for talking bravely, some would say, on behalf of the Labour Party this morning. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matthew. Right, don't go anywhere at home because we'll have the latest on Noel and Liam Gallagher, Oasis, obviously. More than definitely reuniting for an Oasis reunion. You're with Britons Newsroom on GB News. Back in a tick.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is a big old headache because we talk a lot about GP appointments, don't we? But it's certainly almost everyone I know struggles to see a dentist when they need one.
Yes. You know the best time to go to a dentist? When? 2:30. 2:30.
That's actually quite good. It's better than my gags.
The guy that went into Goa, to India, to get his dental treatment, is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, so tell us about that. I mean, this is how desperate people are to get treatment now. So what's the story?
OK, the story is a guy couldn't get an appointment at the NHS, so he went all the way to Goa in India to get his dental appointment. Now, I think he probably just wanted to go on holiday, and he thought, I know, why don't I go on holiday to Goa and then get my teeth done? Look, people are travelling in their droves. There's whole aeroplanes full of people with medical tourists. Like in Turkey, you get a whole aeroplane with people with hair implants, things like that.
Well,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to go to
turkey teeth, isn't it?
turkey teeth.
Turkey
is the one.
teeth, well, now we've got
That's
it.
when they strip the tooth down and you have these little pegs.
Yes, they strip them down, but in many cases they strip them down far too low, so the nerve is exposed and it gets infected, and it's exposed to the elements, so you get infection in the tooth, and then you have to essentially take them all off. But by then the infection spreads so far. I was getting my nails done the other day, which I don't do very often, and my nail technician said to me, "Is your dad still a dentist?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Please, can I have an emergency appointment?" I went to Turkey and I got my teeth done, and now they look incredible, but I'm in so much pain. They're all infected. She had 15 taken out from the top and 12 from the bottom, and it's an absolute disaster. But this is what people are feeling like they have to do.
So medical tourism doesn't always work.
No, but it shows, doesn't it, Alex, that people can't get their teeth sorted here, so they go elsewhere. Listen, do you floss, by the way?
Don't floss. GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, 9:48. Ben and Dawn with you on this bank holiday weekend on Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News.
Yeah, I hope you're having a wonderful bank holiday. But it wouldn't be a bank holiday without some form of travel chaos, would it? Over the last 24 hours, Paddington Station was brought to a standstill and there was severe disruption at Heathrow Airport. The roads aren't too great either. But to explain the gory details of yet another bank holiday in the UK, we have Simon Calder, the wonderful Simon Calder, travel guru, expert on all things travel, who cycles everywhere. Just saying, there's a reason for this. Simon, how bad is it today?
OK, well, shall we start with the skies? Now, things aren't as bad as they were this time on the corresponding August bank holiday Monday last year. Because if you remember, we saw the NATS air traffic control computer fail. And 20 seconds later, the backup system failed. 2,000 flights cancelled, 300,000 people had their travel plans wrecked. And we haven't seen anything like that so far today. However, we are seeing widespread air traffic control delays, not from the UK, but actually across Europe. Yesterday, Ryanair said that 15% of their first wave of flights, those planes, they've got to get out first thing, otherwise they are going to be flummoxed later on. 15% of those didn't go because of air traffic control problems across Europe. And then last night, well, extraordinary EasyJet flight, London to Basel, took off, London Gatwick, took off a couple of hours late. They got to about 10 minutes outside Basel. They're descending. You're sitting there thinking, OK, well, a couple of hours late, but I'll soon be in my hotel or whatever. Suddenly, they divert to Lyon. Which is a couple of 100 miles away. And they did that because they were so late that they worked out they wouldn't be able to get out before the curfew started. And so they went to Lyon instead. And all the people sitting in Basel thinking, well, the plane's nearly here, they were told, sorry, it's now been cancelled. And the plane flew back from Lyon empty.
Simon, is it just me, or does air travel seem a lot more sort of chaotic in recent years? It seems like there's more cancellations, more delays.
Yeah, it certainly is. Air travel is getting a lot safer. Year by year, decade by decade, but absolutely, it's partly because there's so much of it, and we're still creaking at the seams slightly, Ben, because of the problems with getting everything back and working since COVID. And yeah, we're a few air traffic controllers down, so the scope for problems is immense. And wherever you're heading, if you're just an hour or two late, well, congratulations. Not seeing any large-scale cancellations yet, but they may kick in a bit later if delays build up during the day.
And if you're staying at home for this bank holiday weekend, is it worth letting the train take the strain?
Well, That all depends.
Or is it just a strain?
Well, yesterday was absolutely horrible. As you mentioned, London Paddington Station just completely closed down. That was because, I found out this morning, streamers from the Notting Hill Carnival getting tangled in the overhead power lines, and they had to go and investigate and get rid of them and so on. There was also a trespasser at some stage, so they closed all that. But by that stage, anyway, it had been pretty horrible for anybody on the Great Western Line, because if you're trying to get to and from South Wales, you've got to go via Gloucester, and 1 in 10 of the trains which were supposed to be running were cancelled because of staff shortage. And we got staff shortage again today. West Midlands trains cancelling lots of services because they can't get the crew, but you will get a rail replacement bus.
Oh, God. Stuff of nightmares.
Which brings us neatly onto the roads.
Yes.
Speeds on British motorways are the slowest on record.
They are, OK. And this is looking at data from the Department for Transport. Average speed on a motorway, 57 miles an hour. Now, that doesn't sound too bad, except the speed limit, of course, is 70 miles an hour, so it'd be nice to do that. Some motorways much, much worse than that. The worst one is the M25 around London. You can kind of understand that if you've ever driven along it. There's lots of slowing down and sometimes grinding to a complete halt. But, the average speed coming down, which is just adding time to all those journeys. This weekend, of course, the RAC says it's going to be the busiest bank holiday Monday since their records began. Now, they only began in 2015, but it's going to be quite lively on the roads. Anybody in West London will already know that it's very difficult to drive anywhere because of road closures, because of the Notting Hill Carnival, and wherever you're going. Well, good old M25 is going to be somewhere worth avoiding, particularly the western half of it. The A303 coming back from Devon and Cornwall towards London, that's going to be pretty lively later on, as is all the roads coming out the Lake District and joining the M6, and also Blackpool coming southbound from there down the M6. So
what you're saying, Simon, is forget travelling this bank holiday weekend, stay at home, get under the blanket with a cup of tea and watch GB News, maybe.
Exactly that.
Under the blanket with Dawn. Crikey. Yes. There we are.
There we go.
Yeah.
Simon Calder, thank you very much. Very quickly, 10 seconds. Southern trains via Victoria down south, are they running?
They're running OK. Yesterday we had terrible problems on Thameslink, but they're now fixed.
I'm getting home now.
That was a personal one. Thank
home.
you very much, Simon Calder. Love you to bits. Thank you very much. If that was an offer, I'm accepting.
Right, still to come. Apparently, Gen Z diners no longer want to speak to waiters in restaurants and prefer to order and pay via mobile apps. Is this something you've seen firsthand? Gen Z as being a bit antisocial.
Any restaurant that wants me to scan a QR code, I'm not going to. So I'm not going to witness Gen Z doing this.
Right, we'll be back in a tick. Craig has your weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, today, for most of us, it should be largely dry with some spells of sunshine, but there are some showers around, chiefly across parts of northern England, Northern Ireland and Wales. But I think almost anywhere we could just see the odd shower as we go through the course of the day. But for most, it will be a day of sunny spells, and with lighter winds compared to lately, I think it should feel fairly warm out there as well. I think highs potentially reaching around 22 or 23 degrees down towards the southeastern corner. So as we end the bank holiday for some of us across the southern half of the UK, it should be largely fine and dry. Some late spells of sunshine to be had. Can't rule out the odd shower, especially down towards southwest England and Wales, but they should be fairly light and fleeting. More of a risk of a shower or two across Northern Ireland, Northern England and southern Scotland. And then moving up towards the far north of Scotland here should be a fine and dry end to the day. But all eyes out towards the west, you can see this next band of rain just out in the Atlantic. And as we move through the evening and nighttime period, that moves in across many parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland. For a lot of England and Wales, though, we go through the night with largely clear skies. And under the clear skies, we may well just see temperatures just fall into single figures in the countryside. But for most of us, it's a mild night. Especially in the south, could see lows not much lower than about 14 or 15 degrees. So it's a wet start to Tuesday across Northern Ireland and Scotland. That rain may push into parts of Cumbria and Wales as the day goes on. Quite heavy and persistent in places, so some poor travelling conditions out and about. But Further south, across a good chunk of England and Wales, it's going to be a fine and dry picture. With southerly winds, it's going to feel increasingly warm, could see highs reaching around 25 or 26 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Johnny Ratner. Long delays continue heading south down the M3 towards Belfast. The motorway remains closed from junction 1A1 towards the city centre and the scene of a serious accident where recovery work is taking place. Long queues back onto both the M2 and the A12. In Derby, the A514 Osmaston Road still closed following a building fire. South East London, the South Circular is blocked westbound through Lee for emergency repairs. One to bear in mind if you're heading towards Catford, towards the gyratory this morning. In West London, at Harmondsworth Sipson Road, blocked by collision, and of course staying in the west of the capital, routes around Notting Hill, North Kensington and Westbourne Green have restrictions and closures in place for the Notting Hill Carnival to the early hours of tomorrow morning. It also means Ladbroke Grove Station is closed and Scott Red are running replacement buses in Girvan and Ayr because of the flooding. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Time is ticking. Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 a.m. on Monday the 26th of August, Bank Holiday Monday. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and Dawn Neeson in for the lovely Andrew and Bev.
Good morning to you. The Prime Minister is under pressure to explain why a millionaire donor was given a security pass to number 10. This comes as he's set to lay out tomorrow Britain's 10-year road to recovery this week. Yes, 10 years.
OK, meanwhile, a carnival chaos. 90 arrests and a 32-year-old woman is in a critical condition after being stabbed. Notting Hill Carnival's main parade gets underway today.
And breaking overnight, 40 fire engines and around 225 firefighters battled a fire at a block of flats in Dagenham in East London.
And Middle East on the brink. Israel and Hezbollah exchanged the biggest cross-border strikes since the start of the war in Gaza. Charlie Peters has the latest.
Whoever harms us, we will harm you. That is Benjamin Netanyahu's message of defiance as peace talks in Gaza collapse and tensions in the region continue to escalate.
And missing soldier search, an operation to find the remains of a British Army captain and undercover officer who was kidnapped, murdered and secretly buried by the IRA in 1977, is set to begin. Dougie Beattie has all the details.
Nearly 47 years on from the disappearance of Captain Narak, a dig begins here at Foggart in County Louth, just south of Northern Ireland's border.
And feeling supersonic, Oasis look definitely maybe set to announce a comeback tomorrow at 8 a.m. Jack Carlson has all the details.
Well, Oasis fans thought that this reunion might be half the world away. But as you said, Dawn, it's definitely maybe, with this announcement expected tomorrow morning.
Have we actually done every Oasis pun now? I can't actually think anymore. Some of them weren't ours, by the way.
I think we've had about 20 in 32 minutes.
I have got quite a big back catalogue. I'm sure there's some more we can come up with. Or maybe you'd like to help us out, because it's very simple to get involved in all of these debates. Just go to gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's go and get the news headlines with Sophie Reaper.
Good morning, it's 2 minutes past 10. Now for the top stories from the GB Newsroom. A developing story this morning, a major incident has been declared after a fire broke out at a block of flats in Dagenham. It's reported that more than 100 people have been evacuated from the building, with the London Fire Brigade stating that a significant search and rescue operation is now underway. MP for the area, Margaret Mullane, has posted her thanks to the fire service online, saying thanks to their rapid response, injury was minimal. She also added that she'll be visiting the rescue centre today to offer her support. We'll be bringing you all the latest on this story as we get it. A British man has been killed by a missile strike in eastern Ukraine. He's been named as safety advisor Ryan Evans. The 38-year-old was part of a reporting crew working with the news agency Reuters when the hotel they were staying at in Kramatorsk in Ukraine was struck on Saturday. The agency has said they are devastated by his death and that they are now urgently seeking more information about the attack. The strike also put 2 other journalists in hospital, one of whom remains in a serious condition. 3 people were stabbed yesterday at the annual Notting Hill Carnival, with 1 woman being left in a life-threatening condition. Police have also said that 15 officers were assaulted and 90 arrests were made on the first day of the event. Heavy police presence is now expected today for the main parade as it passes through the streets of West London. Over to the Middle East, and tensions have escalated between Israel and Hezbollah after an exchange of fire on both sides. The Israeli military carried out a series of airstrikes in southern Lebanon early yesterday morning, saying it believed Hezbollah was planning to carry out an attack of its own. The Iran-backed militants then launched drones at Israel, allegedly in response to the killing of one of its top commanders in an airstrike on Beirut last month. In response to this, British Foreign Secretary David Lammy has urged restraint on both sides. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer is set to give a speech tomorrow in which he's expected to say things will get worse before they get better. It's believed the Prime Minister will say he wants to be honest with people whilst outlining what he calls the rubble and ruin left by the Conservatives. This comes after Chancellor Rachel Reeves warned last month of a £22 billion black hole created by the previous government. Earlier, political commentator Peter Spencer told GB News what he believes Keir Starmer is hoping to achieve with this speech.
I think he's 2 things. One, he's managing expectations. And I can remember during the election campaign him saying, look, I can't just go to bed one night and dream up a couple of new prisons. Stuff takes time. But the second point is I think he's also firing a warning shot across his own side.
Meanwhile, one of Labour's biggest donors, Wahid Ali, was given a temporary security pass to Downing Street, bringing about claims of government cronyism. A spokesperson for the Prime Minister has said the pass was given to Ali, whilst he helped organise a post-election event, but it was handed back several weeks ago. The NHS hospital discharge system has been described by the government as broken, as a new survey has revealed that almost a fifth of UK care providers reported week-long waiting times for people to be transferred. A survey of 568 care homes and home care providers across the nation found wide regional variation, leading to further calls for urgent reform of the social care system. 17% of respondents said the average length of time for a person to be discharged into their care was 1 to 2 weeks, while around 7% said the average rate was 3 or more weeks. And something a bit cheerful now. The world's oldest man has turned 112 today. John Tinniswood was born in Liverpool on this day in 1912 and says the secret to his long life is just luck, that and his weekly portion of fish and chips. Asked how he feels to be turning 112, he told Guinness World Records, "In all honesty, no difference. I don't feel that age. I don't get excited over it. That's probably why I've reached it." What an amazing man. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophie Reaper. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
So that's the secret to longevity, is it? Fish and chips?
Evidently, yeah. But that's probably why I look like I do, because I don't really eat much fish and chips.
You like a bit of sausage, don't you?
Vegetarian sausage.
Veggie sausage. Linda McCartney.
You remembered that conversation.
From our, yes.
Yeah, you're still in therapy. Sorry about that.
We did a show together some months back and we were talking about fish and chips and I said, what's your favourite? And Dawn said sausage.
Well, I asked you if you like a battered sausage. I thought that was a very, very fair thing to ask someone.
Yeah.
They do them in fish or a gherkin or a wally, a little wally.
A wally?
Yeah, do you like a little wally?
What's that?
It's like a little gherkin thing.
Oh, no, I do like gherkins. I like pickled stuff, yeah. It's cod and chips for me, bit of curry sauce.
Pickled stuff, it's a bank holiday. I just like being pickled, to be honest with you. Where's this conversation going? Yeah, it's Britons Newsroom, evidently. It is a bank holiday day, so we hope you're having a lovely time out there. And lots of you have been getting in touch already, and a lot of you are very angry, like I am, about the winter fuel payment. We're having a discussion about where Labour are going and how things are only going to get worse. And Sue says, good morning, Sue. Sue says, have these lefties ever wondered why the older generation do not vote for them? Might it be that we have the misfortune of having lived through the previous lefty governments and know how economically inept they are, plus being a bunch of hypocrites and liars? Strong words there.
Yeah.
And you're not alone either. Jan points out that if everyone entitled to pension credit claims the full amount, it will cost the taxpayer of the state £4 billion a year, which is double what Labour are hoping to claw back from getting rid of your fuel credits.
How much were their public sector pay rises? I think £14 billion.
Yeah, but that's fine. They had to do that. Growth, Ben. We've got to keep the economy going.
Yeah, OK.
Yeah,
talking about Oasis and their reunion, Anthony, good morning. You say Oasis reuniting. Personally, I couldn't care less. Never been a fan. Bernard says, two Mancs manipulating their fans just to make more money. It's a bit harsh, Bernard.
Yeah, it's harsh.
And Dave says, oh, this is interesting. Morning, Dave. Dave Marks, you say, I had a club in Oldham and Oasis played for free. It was their third ever gig. And that's all you say.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah, maybe elaborate on that, Dave, and we'll try and reveal more.
But just quickly, because we mentioned the story about the generation gap as well and how we like to order food in restaurants. And basically, Gen Z, I think, as I said, and I think you said Gen Z. I'm not sure which way round it said. Ben and Dawn, it's Gen Z, not Z. We live in the UK, not the US. I hate all the Americanisms diluting our language.
I think it's me who always gets that wrong, because every time I say Gen Z. Is that the incorrect way? Every time I say it, regardless of the show...
Well, Gen Z is right, because we say... What do we say?
I say Gen Z.
You have to read out the alphabet now.
Anyway, OK.
In any case, I'm a boomer, I can say that at least. But only by 20 days.
It's my birthday on Wednesday.
I know, happy birthday
I keep saying. Anyway, should we move on? Let's turn our attention to the Middle East now, a bit of a gear shift, because there was no agreement in the Gaza ceasefire talks that took place in Cairo, with neither Hamas nor Israel agreeing to several compromises presented by mediators.
Yeah, this was the big hope, wasn't it, that Egypt were going to get everyone around the table and we'll be sorting this problem out. But it's not happening, and this comes as warning sirens have been sounding in Tel Aviv as Israel's Iron Dome aerial defence system shot down rockets coming from southern Lebanon, with Hamas claiming to have fired across the border.
GB News national reporter Charlie Peters joins us now. Good morning, Charlie. As far as I understood from last night, anyway, one of the rockets that were fired at Tel Aviv landed in an open area. There was no buildings hit or casualties. Is there any updates since then?
There is. In the last half hour, the IDF has said that they destroyed the launcher for that missile near a school in Khan Yunis, which is in the south of the Gaza Strip. So if there's one way to signal a failure of a ceasefire agreement, it's to launch rockets at a civilian area. That'll signify very clearly that those mediation efforts have not succeeded. And yesterday, a senior Hamas official, Osama Hamdan, did say that many of the ideas and proposals put on the table in early July were not being respected in this recent round of mediations. Only one group seemed to be particularly optimistic, and that was Washington. They desperately want this ceasefire deal to go ahead. So much strain it's putting on Washington and American foreign policy in the last 10 months since this crisis erupted. But it seems perhaps that optimism is partly delusional, because both Israel and Hamas seem to be distressed at the proposals being made by each side. Now, Israel does not want the number of Palestinian prisoners to be released that has been proposed. They're also not keen on some of who those prisoners are. Many of people who are in prison in Israel are there for terrorism charges, convictions for killings. There's also concern on the Hamas side about what might happen when people are released. Can they go back up to the north of Gaza? Will there need to be screenings? They're also concerned about the presence of Israeli forces in a 9-mile strip in the south of Gaza called the Philadelphia Corridor. Israeli forces are currently there. They want them gone, but Israel say that's crucial for their military operation to secure the Gaza Strip. And as all of that goes on, as you're mentioning, and Sunday morning overnight, there was that 300-strong rocket barrage coming across the southern border of Lebanon into northern Israel. Just one death caused by that. That was actually debris from an interceptor drone from the Iron Dome system. That killed an Israeli sailor at sea, 2 others wounded. No major damage from that. They targeted a military intelligence site just north of Tel Aviv, didn't hit it. IDF say that all of their interceptions were successful. Netanyahu afterwards said, whoever harms us, we will harm them. They are defiant that whatever Lebanon does, they will react to severely. When I say Lebanon, I should say Lebanese Hezbollah, the strong Iran-backed militia group that has so much power in that divided and poor state just north of Israel. But as all of that goes on, Middle East tensions are on a precipice. It seems they've been there constantly for the last 10 months, but this is an especially tense time because it is that turning point potentially for a ceasefire for peace in Gaza, and at the same time, this crisis in Lebanon only going further. Iran, in the last few hours, their Iranian foreign minister said that they've still not delivered their definitive response to the killing of Ismail Haniyeh on July the 30th in Tehran. Lebanon, the Hezbollah there, said that their reaction, this strike on Saturday night, was in reaction to a senior commander being killed just hours before that strike in late July. So we could see further attacks in the coming weeks.
Yeah, that was the most chilling thing, I think, what happened over the weekend. It was like we're implying, OK, we're not doing anything for now, but this is phase one. Both sides pretty much said this is phase one, but there's more to come. And I find that particularly chilling because where do we go from here? And how does anyone sort it out? Impossible.
Charlie Peters, thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Gosh, it's a big fat mess, isn't it? And,
very well explained, though, I must admit. It's so complicated.
Well, that's why he's paid the big bucks, Charlie Peters. Hey, Charlie. Right, we move on. A search is starting in a remote area of the Irish border for remains of Robert Nairac. The British Army officer is believed to have been abducted by the Provisional IRA while on an undercover operation in 1977.
GB News Northern Ireland reporter Doogie Beattie joins us now to bring us up to date on the story. Doogie, thank you for joining us. Doogie, tell us more about this story. It sounds like a long time ago, but I mean, I'm old enough to remember the details of this, and the fact that this is going on now is actually it's quite heartbreaking, to be honest.
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of 17 bodies that were known as the disappeared. The IRA took these people, murdered them and secretly buried them. Many of them here at Floggart, this border area here in County Louth, in Braggan Bog, etc. And these people have been they've been given up by the IRA, and there's immunity to those that come forward with information. Still a few bodies missing, that of Nairac, Joe Linsky and Columbo McVeigh. Their families are still looking to have the bodies returned to them. And if I could just actually pan the camera here a little bit for you, you can see that is Northern Ireland in behind us, and this is a very bleak area. It is it's a very beautiful area in a lot of ways, but it's also a very historical area. And the dig here, unlike the ones in Braggan Bog, etc., where bodies always move inside the bog, is there's an added bit of a complication here, because if you just look in round behind me here, you will see a graveyard, and in there is the last High King of Ireland that is buried, and that's Edward the Bruce, and that battle took place in 1318. So you can only imagine that this area here will actually have quite a few human remains in and around it. Now, I spent time in 2017 with John Hills, the man that looks for these bodies, actually in France, in a forest in Rouen, for the body of Seamus Ruddy, which he took from a 200-mile square area down to a 10-foot square area and actually found the body of Seamus Ruddy. So today he is starting to dig for the body of Captain Nairac, and it's believed that it's just over my right shoulder here, and he has taken that down to about an acre square. Now, that is very difficult for us to film, obviously, because the people that own that land have nothing to do with it, the people that lease it have nothing to do with what's buried under the ground, but obviously there's a lot of sensitivity around that. I would assume that if John Hills has started to dig here, he would be brave and sure that he's going to get those results, and possibly the Nairac family will have their loved one returned to them. But for the rest of the disappeared families, that whole process does go on, and it is a very dark part of Northern Ireland's history, and it's amazing how it still comes to the fore now, and 25 years on from the Good Friday Agreement, we're only now starting to see those results.
Yeah, Dougie, just very quickly, why now? Why is this happening now?
Well, it's all to do with information that comes forward,
right.
And people that were either knew where he was buried or took part in that murder. They come forward and say, look, here's where he was. Maybe they themselves are dying and want to some way clear their own minds or have settlement for someone else. Or it could be that it was to do with the Canova report that came out in February last year, and that was to do with military undercover operations that was going on at that time. A lot of that Canova report has been censored, and we have yet to see that. So for all we know, there could have been information come out there, but John Hills is a very, very experienced man at body recovery, and I have no doubt that he will have news for us within this next week.
OK. Thanks, Dougie. Keep us updated, won't you, throughout the day?
Oh, it's such a sad story. It really is. So many lives sort of affected, and so many people still don't know answers about them.
60. So I was just googling it then. Dougie said they were. I didn't know this, proving my ignorance, but they were called the Disappeared.
Yeah.
Around 16 people.
Yeah.
Who just vanished off the face of the earth after being abducted and murdered.
A long, long time not knowing what happened, or to even be able to lay your loved one to rest.
OK. Up next, find out why children are going to be taught to challenge whiteness in school lessons. You're with Britons Newsroom on GB News. Back in a tick.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
A court on Wednesday ruled that a teenager was wrongly ignored before being forced into end-of-life care. Sudiksha Thirumalesh, who was 19, died last year after being prevented from travelling abroad for treatment after doctors said her condition was incurable. Doctors said Ms. Thirumalesh's objection to their decision was unreasonable and that she should have all life-sustaining treatment ended and be put on a palliative care pathway. Last August, a ruling said that the teenager lacked mental capacity to make her own decisions, but 3 judges in the Court of Appeal overturned that decision last week. Lawyers said the move reaffirms the right of patients to disagree with their doctors. The teenager remained fully conscious while being treated by the University Hospitals Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. Well, to discuss this tragic case, Sudiksha's father, Thirumalesh, and brother Varshan join me now. Thank you so much for joining me in these desperately sad circumstances. This is very important for other people who may find themselves in a similar position, that they will be able to make decisions about their own care with the support of their families, rather than the sometimes arrogance of the medical profession who think that they know best. So you must be, I hope, very reassured by this judgment that Sudiksha has achieved something for other people.
Yes, definitely, because This arrogance transformed into cruelty towards my sister's care and ill treatment of the whole family. They think they are on the top of the hierarchical spectrum, and they treated us like we were on the bottom of the lower end of the chains, or rather as low class, but we ensured that our class remained.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. It is 10:22. This is Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and Dawn Neeson in for the lovely Andrew and Ben. Hope you're having a wonderful bank holiday out there, because it is indeed a bank holiday Monday. And we have got a real treat for you now, because going through the papers for us today is writer, columnist and journalist Emma Wolfe and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza, actually in the studio.
Absolutely. Our bank holiday with you, Dawn.
Thank you very much. I just got one little message to read out from Alison. I've been corrected. I'm sorry. I would like to apologise sincerely for this, Alison. We were talking about what you like in fish and chip shops.
Yes.
And I said a wally with a little gherkin. Alison says it's a big gherkin.
Oh, OK.
I just wanted to clarify.
But you're a Savoy and chips girl, are you, Dawn? I just wanted to say Savoy on television, basically.
Yeah, you do. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Right. From one Wally to another. Matthew Laza.
Ben, I've joined myself here on a bank holiday as well. Oh. I know you don't mean it.
How long did it take you to think of that? That was really good.
That was quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quick, considering you're very tired. And very orange, as people are noticing. It's a tan. It's not fake tan, it's real. OK, who wants to start then? Teachers trained to challenge whiteness.
I will. Less of the Savoy.
Go for it.
More of the common sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, well, apparently teachers are being asked, sort of undergoing anti-racist training. They're in schools, they're being trained to disrupt the centrality of whiteness. And this term, in this context, whiteness means social attitudes considered normal by white people. I think we can all agree that we don't want any form of racism or any form of sort of racist assumptions within schools. But I think it's quite dangerous when we're constantly making white pupils, white students feel apologetic for just being white. So this is a kind of creeping, normalisation of anti-racist whiteness, to challenging whiteness.
Matthew, call me old-fashioned, but shouldn't teachers be teaching things like maths and English and history and geography, or...?
And not critical race theory. Yeah, I mean, I think that is a strong argument. I mean, yeah, it's sort of, you start reading this article and it says, ensure future educators are anti-racist, which, as Emma says, is absolutely something that, everybody would agree on. But what is a bit worrying about this is it seems to be drawn into two different curriculums, one north of the border in Scotland and one developed by a consortium of Scottish universities, and one south of the border led by Newcastle University. And it's when it gets into understanding the impact of whiteness, and this is the favourite phrase is disrupt the centrality of whiteness. Yeah. Now, if that means saying that, just being aware that, many people in British society, many young people in our schools are not white, that's one thing. But it's starting to say that people need to sort of start, 7-year-olds need to apologise for their whiteness. It seems to me that tips over. And I'm slightly unclear as to why this Department for Education doesn't oversee these things. They're just developed in the universities and the teacher training institutions without much supervision. So I think there'll be questions raised.
I think there is an argument for, when you look at history, to explain the context.
Yeah.
It's all about contextualisation and looking back and explaining colonialism or, you know, racism in the past or slavery.
Absolutely.
All of that, absolutely. But what I see, and I have a 4-year-old who was in nursery, who will be at school, is that he's in a school, he was in a nursery that was all sorts of colours. And they absolutely, children who are brought up surrounded by difference and surrounded by people of every skin colour, every faith, every religion, are pretty open-minded, and they don't see whiteness as a thing. In fact, my child doesn't say, oh, so-and-so's white or so-and-so's black. He just literally doesn't see it. He just sees other people, and that is great.
Same as you. My boy's the same age as yours, I think. He doesn't... Kids don't see skin colour. They don't... And it's not just about critical race theory or... You know, it's about sexual relationships, everything else. Kids don't view the world like we do, and I wish adults and parents would stop trying to impose their baggage and their life corruption on innocent young children. Just leave them alone.
Just let them be, because they're growing up and they are totally fine with everybody of every different sort. I think so much more open-minded than we were.
It's one thing to say that teachers are crucial to anti-racism work, but it's rather worryingly, it says that notions of whiteness include a belief in meritocracy. Well, I would have thought, I mean, if you look at many ethnic minority communities in Britain, particularly if you look at the school results over the last few weeks, where London, the most ethnically diverse part of the country, is the one where school results have been surging over the last 10, 15 years. Actually, meritocracy is a vital, very much a value of many, many ethnic minority communities. So I think that this is just sometimes it's white liberals getting themselves in a mess.
Too much time on their hands.
Where should we go next?
Let's go to Whitehall, talking of wasting time. Yeah, that's
You're
always...
allowed to say Whitehall.
Oh, gosh, yes. Non-discriminate colour hall. Daily Mail. Whitehall staff are wasting £13.9 billion as they target pensioners, the topic you're all on again today, for winter fuel cash. What's going on with this one?
Yeah, so basically this is a taxpayers' alliance. I mean, there's a little bit of we know quite a lot of this already, but it's clearly being marshalled as an argument as the government, as you say, Dawn, cuts the means test the winter fuel allowance. You must emphasise that it's being means tested, so some pensioners, so those on pension credit, will still get it. So the particular focus today is on money that the Department for Work and Pensions is wasting internally. Apparently, it's still paying £16 million in rent for job centres that were temporary job centres from the pandemic. One ex-employee is being identified for a loss of 600 grand, and another person...
Yeah, that loss of 600 grand was to people he seemed to know.
Yes.
Matthew, that's quite disingenuous. Loss of 600 grand.
It's in quotes.
A civil service. I'll just tell you. A civil service allegedly handed £600,000 in benefits to his friends. OK? So that's a little bit more than a loss down the back of the system.
No, absolutely. Look,
do you know what I object to?
I'm not defending it.
Do you know what I object to on this? When we have Starmer's speech tomorrow, which has been heavily trailed about, you know, there's corruption and there's rot and there's blah, 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 and these are the tough choices we need to make about cutting things like, you know, the fuel payments for pensioners. No, the tough choices should be applied to everybody. Tough choices, why are the tough choices being made on pensioners and not on, for example, public sector pay? Tough choices should be made with equity, with fairness, and this is not fair. And the fact is, there is a huge amount, £13.9 billion wasted in fraud and error. And OK, that's not on the Labour Party because they weren't in government. Sure. But in general, Whitehall need to clean up their act.
I mean, I agree with you.
Stop punishing the most vulnerable.
Yeah, well, I mean, Rachel Reeves is one of her aims is a war on waste. She's setting up a way that we can actually analyse all government spending, so that you actually start from what should we be spending money on. And I think that continually clamping down on fraud in the welfare budget is vitally important. And absolutely, if you're a pensioner whose winter fuel allowance is going to be taken away because you're not on pension credit, then you're clearly going to be very angry at any money wasted, which could be spent better.
OK, should we move on? The Daily Mail. Sorry, Dawn, would you want to...
No, I was going to make no comment whatsoever. I'm just looking at how angry everybody is out there about what the Labour Party are doing to pensioners.
Yeah, lots of comments on your say.
Yeah.
Page 5 of the Daily Mail. Gen Z, don't want to...
Gen Z, we're English, Benjamin.
so let me get this straight. So Gen Z is the correct term?
Yes.
Gen Z, we're English,
Yes, we're not American.
Right, I am not... By the way, I am not Gen Z either. I'm a millennial, I believe.
I think you are.
Right.
I'm just a bit...
Your birthday this week, how old are you going to be, Ben?
17.
Then you are a Gen Z.
He has 2 children. Let's just be
He started very young, yes.
This is hilarious, this one.
Gen Z don't want to speak to waiters, so it's just Gen Z. Stop it. They don't want to speak to waiters because they'd rather have their heads buried in mobile phones, digital apps. Basically, they've got no social.
I'm only getting you back because you called me a Wally. The boss of Bill's, the popular restaurant chain, is called Tom James, has said that he's installed in several branches self-service kiosks and the old QR codes that we remember ordering on a QR code from the pandemic, because he says that Gen Z, I nearly said Gen Z. Gen Z don't want to talk to waiters. They'd rather do it all on their phone without having any human contact. So he thinks it's going to spread. But of course, what I don't understand about this story is obviously there were hospitality staff of all ages. Obviously, a lot of people do it as their first job or a part-time job when they're studying. So there's a lot of Gen Z waiters. So Gen Z doesn't want to talk to other Gen Z. It's not even like they've got to talk to authority figures.
This is so sad. Surely one of the main things, the social aspect of going out, dining, chatting to your server, chatting to your barman, chatting to the barmaid, chatting to your waitress. I've never, and I think, Dawn, I heard you say earlier, you wouldn't want to go to
anything that encourages me to... Yeah, with a QR code.
Do you not order on the app with spoons, Dawn?
I have never...
Darling.
No.
Spoons. Please.
I've never been to a restaurant or a bar where you have to scan it all, and I think it's utterly dehumanising to people. I think it should be part of the experience of dining out, or even just grabbing food out, is that you say, hi, here's my sandwich, can you scan... You know, so...
So I actually did go into Spoons yesterday with a friend, and he couldn't decide what he wanted, so we sat there for about half an hour, as he played about on the app, and we never ordered anything and left because our time ran out because he was just fiddling on the app.
Matthew, in the old days, you might have had a conversation with someone at the bar, you might have decided, or you might have said to the waiter, what's good today, you might have had a chat.
Yeah.
Well,
human contact.
We're going to carry on chatting to you too later. Unfortunately, we're running out of time now. Matthew Lanza, Emma Wolf, thank you very much. We'll see you very soon. But now it's time for the news headlines with Sophie Reaper.
Thank you, Dawn. It's 28 minutes to 11 now for the latest headlines from the GB Newsroom. A major incident has been declared after a fire broke out overnight at a block of flats in Dagenham. It's reported that over 100 people were evacuated from the building, with 2 people being taken to hospital. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has thanked firefighters and other emergency workers for their bravery and swift response. She said, "My thoughts are with all those affected by the major fire incident in Dagenham." In the last hour, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has laid flowers at a memorial site where 3 people were killed and 8 injured in a stabbing on Friday. The 26-year-old behind the attack in the city of Solingen has been named as Issa al-H. That was after he gave himself up to the police. The Syrian national is now being investigated by German federal prosecutors for links to the Islamic State. A British man killed by a missile strike in eastern Ukraine has been named as safety advisor Ryan Evans. The 38-year-old was there working with news agency Reuters when the hotel they were staying at in Kramatorsk was struck on Saturday. The agency has said they are devastated by his death and that they are now urgently seeking more information about the attack. 3 people were stabbed yesterday at the annual Notting Hill Carnival, with 1 woman being left in a life-threatening condition. Police have also said that 15 officers were assaulted and 90 arrests were made on the first day of the event. A heavy police presence is now expected today for the main parade as it passes through the streets of West London. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophie Reaper. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Now here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pounds will buy you $1.3195 and €1.1802. The price of gold is £1,913.16 per ounce. And the FTSE 100's at 8,327.78 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
A challenge
They
for
might
you,
have
Ben.
pre-recorded bloody.
I know.
Sing the next bit. I'm accepting nothing less, and you've
What,
just had some...
sing this copy on the screen?
Yeah, go for it.
Because it's Oasis.
In an Oasis style.
Can I just sing a line of an Oasis song?
Oh, go on then. I'll let you off.
And so Sally can wait, she knows it's too late as she's walking on by. Her soul slides away.
All right, enough already. Thank you very much. That was brilliant. That was Ben Knowles there. Brilliant. Thank you, Ben Knowles. Thank you very much. Right, OK, now we are actually crossing to the home of Noel and Liam Gallagher, as it looks like that Oasis reunion is actually gonna happen.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, today, for most of us, it should be largely dry with some spells of sunshine, but there are some showers around, chiefly across parts of Northern England, Northern Ireland and Wales. But I think almost anywhere we could just see the odd shower as we go through the course of the day. But for most, it will be a day of sunny spells, and with lighter winds compared to lately, I think it should feel fairly warm out there as well. I think highs potentially reaching around 22 or 23 degrees down towards the southeastern corner. So as we end the bank holiday for some of us across the southern half of the UK, it should be largely fine and dry. Some late spells of sunshine to be had. Can't rule out the odd shower, especially down towards southwest England and Wales, but they should be fairly light and fleeting. More of a risk of a shower or two across Northern Ireland, Northern England and southern Scotland. And then moving up towards the far north of Scotland here should be a fine and dry end to the day. But all eyes out towards the west, you can see this next band of rain just out in the Atlantic. And as we move through the evening and nighttime period, that moves in across many parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland. For a lot of England and Wales, though, we go through the night with largely clear skies. And under the clear skies, we may well just see temperatures just fall into single figures in the countryside. But for most of us, it's a mild night, especially in the south. Could see lows not much lower than about 14 or 15 degrees. So it's a wet start to Tuesday across Northern Ireland and Scotland. That rain may push into parts of Cumbria and Wales as the day goes on. Quite heavy and persistent in places, so some poor travelling conditions out and about. But further south, across a good chunk of England and Wales, it's going to be a fine and dry picture. With southerly winds, it's going to feel increasingly warm. Could see highs reaching around 25 or 26 degrees.
The latest GB News travel.
Hello, good morning. I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK for a Monday morning. In Notting Hill, we've got various road closures in London there due to the carnival taking place, and those closures restrictions in place till early tomorrow morning. In Kent, the coastbound M20 speed restriction in place due to Operation Brock, Junction 8 for Leeds Castle and the Maidstone services to Junction 9 at Ashford. And in Surrey, the clockwise M25, one lane closed due to an accident just before Junction 9 at Leatherhead. In Berkshire, the London-bound M4, one lane closed at the moment. This is due to an accident from Junction 10 at Wokingham and Bracknell to Junction 8 for Maidenhead, and also two at the moment in the Lee area of London on the South Circular westbound. We've currently got emergency repairs there. The road is blocked around Buring Road, and also in Finsbury Park as well. Seven Sisters Road at the minute closed due to an accident near to Finsbury Park Station this morning. Europe Today.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Just coming towards 10:39, Ben and Dawn with you on Britons Newsroom, only on GB News. And if you hadn't heard, maybe you don't care, but Liam and Noel Gallagher look set to announce Oasis' long-awaited return next week.
Yeah, the once feuding, it's been 15 years of feuding, over a tambourine being thrown. In any case, they've reportedly struck a secret deal, not that secret, for a number of concerts next summer.
GB News reporter Jack Carson joins us now with all the details. What's the story? Morning glory, Jack Carson.
Well, we all thought this reunion might be half the world away, didn't we? It was always up in the sky, but now it is looking definitely maybe to be happening over the next 12 months. This tease of this announcement over the weekend, of course, Liam Gallagher was headlining at Reading. We saw this short clip, and as well as a post on social media of tomorrow's date with 8 a.m. in that infamous Oasis font. And all weekend, really, Liam Gallagher was responding to comments, responding to fans fans in this frenzy on social media, teasing it even more. One of his posts over the weekend was, "I never liked the word former." Now, as you were mentioning, the band broke up more than 15 years ago now. At that time, Noel, when he left, said he quit Oasis. He felt like he couldn't work with Liam a day longer. They'd had many public arguments over the years, many public rows and fallouts. That was no secret. But when they broke up in 2009, everyone thought that was it, that there may never ever be a reunion. But it's 30 years this year since that album, definitely maybe. And now we get this announcement, hopefully confirming tomorrow morning that they are to play a number of shows, both here in Manchester, at Wembley, and a number of dates as well. Getting some reaction from here this morning. Here's what one fan told me.
Well, I think it's incredible. The thought of seeing Oasis after 15 years would just be incredible. They're such an iconic band. Me and my friends have grown up listening to them. They're just absolute rock stars, and I think everyone's looking forward to the idea of it.
Yeah. I mean, you said that you kind of grew up listening to them. What's your history with them been? What's your relationship, with the band been?
Yeah, I think one of the first albums I ever bought was What's Story Morning Glory. Just love everything about Liam and Noel Gallagher, obviously being from the area as well. The kind of emphasise everything around being young and everything, so yeah, great.
Yeah, I mean, it's been teased, and there's been always rumours over the years that it might finally happen. The fact that 8 a.m. could be the official announcement, I mean, that's quite something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely something, and I think everyone's going to be up early tomorrow to see what the news is. It definitely looks certain that it's going to happen. The fact that Noel's posted it on Instagram, and Liam's obviously been teasing it over the weekend at Reading and Leeds, so yeah, it should be a great announcement for everyone.
Are you going to be first in line for tickets?
Hopefully. God knows how we're going to get tickets, but hopefully they do loads of dates. Manchester, Wembley, Glasgow maybe. Let's see.
Yeah, well, that's one of the rumours, isn't it, that Glastonbury might be one of the days that they headline at Glastonbury over the course of that festival as well. I mean, these reunions have been teased over the years. They've never really happened, but it finally feels like this might be the year. Noel Gallagher before us said, well, would you go on holiday with an ex-missus? I don't want to come back and come back with Liam, but maybe they've solved their differences. Could we be set for an Oasis reunion? It looks likely.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Jack. That's quite exciting, isn't it? But the problem I've got with this, 10 gigs supposedly, some in Wembley and some in Manchester's Heaton Park, but the tickets are going to be £130.
Well, cheaper than Taylor Swift, which Taylor Swift tickets were about £500-600 quid.
Yeah, I know, but it's still an awful lot of money. I remember seeing Oasis back in the day, the infamous Nebworth gig, and I can't remember what I paid, but I'm sure it wasn't as expensive as that.
I've been wondering about the Oasis tribute bands, whether they're going to be getting more work off the back of it. Is it good or bad? Well, we've got the perfect man to ask, because we've got the lead singer of Definitely Oasis, Brian McGee, now, who joins us live down the line.
How you doing? You all right?
Hey, morning, Brian. Thanks for joining us. So what's going on then? Do you think you're going to get more work off the back of this, or maybe less work, considering the Real Deal are now back, or imminently back?
No idea as yet. What I would say is the last day, ticket sales have started going mad, so I think there's a lot of hype and a lot of buzz about it, so people just, the Oasis are all over the place again, so I don't know what it's going to be like in the long term, to be honest. I'm just going to enjoy it myself, go and see Oasis next year and have fun at the gigs and see the Real Deal.
How did you become a tribute act in the first place? Were you a super fan, or did you just naturally look like them, sound like them?
No, it's 1994, Definitely Maybe came out, and I've been a fan ever since. Been to loads of gigs, all the albums. They were all massive fans, the whole band are. And this just so happens we can do Oasis live, so it seems to work out all right.
And how often do you play gigs? I mean, is it sort of like enough to sort of like pay the rent type thing?
It's wild. I mean, we're all over the world. We're in Australia, the Middle East, the UK. We're out every weekend. It's been wild. The demand for Oasis is crazy. So when these tickets go on sale, it's going to be like absolutely gold dust. It's going to be wild.
And I'm sure Liam and Noel are aware of who you guys are. Do you ever speak to them? When was the last time you met them?
Nah, it's not like that at all. I mean, I think we met Andy Bell, the bass player, once after a gig. But nah, it's not something. We never get in touch with them or anything like that. But if they're listening, get some free tickets sorted.
Brian, let me just ask you, read you a comment someone's just made on our comment system. They've said, why don't you stop waffling about a second-rate band who never did anything? I'd rather go and see proper bands like AC/DC or Pink Floyd. What's your response to that?
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Oasis are one of the biggest selling bands of all time. We see it every week at the gig. Our gigs are packed every week. I mean, they've got a crazy amount of fans. Nah, I'm not buying that, man. No way.
Brian, can I just ask you, right, OK, the feud between the brothers has been going on for a long time, as we know, and my favourite quote is Noel saying, "I liked my mum until she gave birth to Liam." I mean, some of the insults are classics. That was a classic. Who's your favourite, Liam or Noel?
It's a weird one. Nah, I wouldn't say. I mean, recently probably Liam, just purely because he's been out doing it again. But nah, I don't have a favourite. I love Noel's vocals. Noel's singing's amazing. On all the tracks he's recorded, the Oasis stuff and that. Nah, I've not got a favourite between them. You can't pick. They're so similar yet different at the same time. I mean, you can't do that.
What were their different qualities, Brian? Was Noel the sort of main lyricist for the band?
Yeah, no, I mean, Noel was a songwriter. He was the main songwriter. Obviously, Liam's the front man. Liam's, do you know what I mean? He's the guy in front of the cameras, in front of the stage, the rock star. Obviously, Noel was a rock star as well, but he was more in the background with writing the songs. But Liam was your main man. You're a godlike genius, as they say.
And they've obviously been doing their own projects since Oasis. Noel had his High Flying Birds and so on. Do you reckon they'll both have sort of the beans and the energy to do massive dates like Wembley Stadium?
Oh, how could you not? It's Wembley Stadium. It's to like 100,000 people. Of course they will, man. Yeah, they'll be full on. It'll be crazy. It'll be interesting to see what the rest of the lineup is. Who's playing, because we've had a few different sort of lineups over the years, so that'll be interesting.
You never know, Brian, you might get a call. You might get a call to warm the crowd up.
Yeah, well, I've got my own band, Violet Sun, so if they need a support band, give us a shout. I'll be concentrating on that now, so all good.
Nice one. All right, Brian McGee, lead singer of Definitely Oasis, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. You know what, no matter how tired I was, £400 million would tempt me to have the energy to go back on the road.
Is that what they're due to be getting?
Yeah.
400 million?
Yeah. Whew. Yeah.
All right.
I know. So I'd overcome that tiredness, wouldn't you, Ben? I'd be there. I mean, yeah.
Definitely. Right, still to come, find out why Gen Z are shunning waiters in restaurants and instead would rather order on their phones. This is Britons Newsroom, live across the UK on GB News. We'll be back in a tick.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Prince Harry says we need to be more cautious when adopting artificial intelligence.
Yes. AI is scary. And I think a lot of people are scared and uncertain. And I think one of the solutions to that is education and awareness, because it's becoming harder and harder to stem the flow from the source, and therefore really it comes down to all of us to be able to spot the true from the fake.
Well, that was a whole load of nothing, wasn't it?
Wisdom.
Yes, we're going to get the thoughts now of former royal correspondent at The Sun, Charles Ray.
Well, I have to say,
I actually agree with Harry and anyone else who says that we have to be cautious about things that appear on social media.
Disinformation and fake news is a controversial topic because who is the ultimate arbiter of truth and fact?
So do you trust Harry to determine?
Well, I don't trust Harry to determine that, no.
They never actually say what they want, though, in terms of social media and things. I mean, do they actually have an idea of what the online media landscape should look like? I mean, there's clearly a veiled attack on Elon Musk and the like, but do they just want anything nasty off there? Do they just want things that, you know, are then proven to be untrue at some point off there? You know, it's easy to stand and say, I want the online world to be safer and it to be less nasty and for there to be less untruths on there. Yeah. It's much more difficult, as we found out in this country and every other country, to actually work out what the policy looks like.
You're absolutely right, Emily, that it's all very well everybody jumping on the bandwagon and saying, oh, we've got to clamp down on social media. Like, I'm suggesting that as well. But, you know, they haven't come up with any solution to it, any program to make it safer and healthier for people to use.
The People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
10:51, Ben and Dawn with you on Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News. Now, the former Tory MP at the centre of the Westminster honey trap scandal has said he experienced suicidal thoughts after his involvement was exposed.
William Ragg, who admitted to handing over colleagues' phone numbers to a man who contacted him on the Grindr app, said he felt guilt and horror after the story was first published. Joining us now is former Conservative MP Neil Parish. Neil, lovely to see you. Thank you very much for joining. Neil, you've got some experience of what it's like to be an MP caught up in a similar situation where fingers are pointed, people are talking about you, on all the front pages. Yours was the incident with the tractor incident, shall we call it. What's it like going through this?
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty horrendous because naturally we also had a lot of people sort of outside, a lot of press naturally all outside around the farm, around the house, around everything. So, yeah, I mean, your career sort of with me went up in smoke in 5 minutes, basically. And so, therefore, you know, you really have to pull yourself together and you have to, you know, however stupid I was at the time, you've got to try and get over it and get on with life. And I think William probably had some of those same feelings, and I also think he, like I said, I think he was very unwise to get involved with it in the first place. I think what I would say is that I think, you know, I mean, I'm very fortunate to have, you know, a very strong wife, a very supportive wife, and in a stable relationship. I think the trouble with Parliament, in a way, if you're not, then I think you're quite vulnerable because, you know, you can carry on your sort of love affairs and relationships if you're single, outside of Parliament, and nobody takes a lot of notice of it. But the moment you're in Parliament, you can be a target, and William was. And William is quite a soft character as well, and I think it really got to him. And I think, yes, he was unwise in what he did, perhaps a little bit naive, and of course what he shouldn't have done actually was given out his colleagues' numbers. But of course, in hindsight, these things are always much easier than when you're in the thick of it, basically.
I don't mean to sound unsympathetic here, but there are those who would say, well, you shouldn't be so stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm not necessarily saying that is not the case, that you should make those judgments. I would just say that it's just a bit more difficult when pursuing any sort of relationship, when you're sort of single in Parliament. because of the, if you make a mistake in your relationships and you're not in the public eye, then there is no problem, except, what the feelings you have and towards other individuals as well. But the trouble with...
Sorry to interject, Neil. We're fast running out of time. Apologies. But thank you for being with us, and we'll catch up shortly on this topic. Craig has your weather. We'll be back in a tick on Britons Newsroom, only on GB News.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, today, for most of us, it should be largely dry with some spells of sunshine, but there are some showers around, chiefly across parts of Northern England, Northern Ireland and Wales. But I think almost anywhere we could just see the odd shower as we go through the course of the day. But for most, it will be a day of sunny spells, and with lighter winds compared to lately, I think it should feel fairly warm out there as well. I think highs potentially reaching around 22 or 23 degrees down towards the southeastern corner. So as we end the bank holiday for some of us across the southern half of the UK, it should be largely fine and dry. Some late spells of sunshine to be had. Can't rule out the odd shower, especially down towards southwest England and Wales, but they should be fairly light and fleeting. More of a risk of a shower or two across Northern Ireland, Northern England and southern Scotland. And then moving up towards the far north of Scotland here should be a fine and dry end to the day. But all eyes out towards the west, you can see this next band of rain just out in the Atlantic. And as we move through the evening and nighttime period, that moves in across many parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland. For a lot of England and Wales, though, we go through the night with largely clear skies. And under the clear skies, we may well just see temperatures just fall into single figures in the countryside. But for most of us, it's a mild night, especially in the south. Could see lows not much lower than about 14 or 15 degrees. So it's a wet start to Tuesday across Northern Ireland and Scotland. That rain may push into parts of Cumbria and Wales as the day goes on. Quite heavy and persistent in places, so some poor travelling conditions out and about. But further south, across a good chunk of England and Wales, it's going to be a fine and dry picture. With southerly winds, it's going to feel increasingly warm. Could see highs reaching around 25 or 26 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. And you could be getting that winning call from us to tell you that you're our next Great British Giveaway winner.
Oh, I can't believe this.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh, you shocked me. I never won a penny in my life.
If I was there, I'll buy you a drink.
Get your entry in now for another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
As time passes,
she could have saved Storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock on Monday, the 26th of August, a bank holiday Monday. Hope you're having a smashing one out there. We're live across the kingdom, to GB News, Britain's Newsroom, with him and Leo and me, Dawn Neeson, in for Andrew and Bev. Now, the Prime Minister is under pressure to explain why a millionaire donor was given a security pass to number 10. This comes as he is set to lay out Britain's long road to recovery this week.
And he reckons 10 years. Elsewhere, carnival chaos, 90 arrests and a 32-year-old woman in a critical condition in hospital after being stabbed. Notting Hill Carnival's main parade gets underway today.
Yeah, and a major incident has been declared. 40 fire engines and around 225 firefighters battled the fire at a block of flats in Dagenham in East London.
And have you seen this? One of Britain's most iconic groups, Oasis, looks definitely maybe set to announce a comeback tomorrow at 8 a.m. Jack Carson has more.
Well, it always looked half the world away for an Oasis reunion, but after teasing over the weekend from both brothers on their social media accounts, could it finally be happening? I'll have all the details.
Yeah, so this big speech tomorrow from Sir Keir Starmer, he'll say basically the Tories have left the country in such rotten ruin that he needs 10 years to get his agenda underway. Not sure what you think about that. gbnews.com/you'll say. We're going to get stuck into that and plenty more in the next hour. But first, your news headlines with Sophie Reaper.
Thank you, Ben. It's 1 minute past 11. Now for the top stories from your GB Newsroom. A major incident has been declared after a fire broke out overnight at a block of flats in Dagenham. It's reported that over 100 people were evacuated from the building, with 2 people being taken to hospital. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper thanked firefighters and other emergency workers for their bravery and swift response. She said, "My thoughts are with all those affected by the major fire incident in Dagenham." A British man killed by a missile strike in eastern Ukraine has been named as safety advisor Ryan Evans. The 38-year-old was part of a reporting crew working with news agency Reuters when the hotel they were staying at was struck on Saturday. The agency has said they are devastated by his death and that they are now urgently seeking more information about the attack. The strike also put 2 other journalists in hospital, one of whom remains in a serious condition. Now, this morning, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has laid flowers at a memorial site where 3 people were killed and 8 injured in a stabbing on Friday. The 26-year-old behind the attack in the city of Solingen has been named as Issa al-H. That was after he gave himself up to the police. The Syrian national is now being investigated by German federal prosecutors for links to the Islamic State. Italian prosecutors have placed the captain of the super yacht which sank off the coast of Sicily last week under investigation. It's been reported that James Cutfield, a 51-year-old New Zealand national, is being investigated for manslaughter and shipwreck. The vessel's sinking led to the deaths of British tech magnate Mike Lynch and 6 other people. 3 people were stabbed yesterday at the annual Notting Hill Carnival, with 1 woman being left in a life-threatening condition. Police have also said that 15 officers were assaulted and 90 arrests were made on the first day of the event. A heavy police presence is now expected today for the main parade as it passes through the streets of West London. In the Middle East, tensions have escalated between Israel and Peter Spencer told GB News what he believes Keir Starmer is hoping to achieve with this speech.
I think he's two things. One, he's managing expectations. And I can remember during the election campaign him saying, look, I can't just go to bed one night and dream up a couple of new prisons. Stuff takes time. But the second point is I think he is also firing a warning shot across his own side.
Meanwhile, one of the Labour Party's biggest donors, Wahid Ali, was given a temporary security pass to Downing Street, bringing about claims of government cronyism. A spokesperson for the Prime Minister has said the pass was given to Ali whilst he helped organise a post-election event, but it was handed back several weeks ago. And some light news now. The world's oldest man has turned 112 today. John Tinniswood was born in Liverpool on this day in 1912 and says the secret to his long life is just luck, alongside his weekly portion of fish and chips. Asked how he feels to be turning 112, he told Guinness World Records, in all honesty, no different. I don't get overexcited about it. That's probably why I've reached it. What a fabulous man he is. Those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophie Reaper. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good morning and a happy bank holiday Monday to you. It's 11:06. You're with Ben and Dawn on Britons Newsroom.
Indeed.
Only on GB News.
Yes, and lots of you have been getting in touch, and this is my favourite bit of the show, is talking to all of you out there. So keep those messages coming in at gbnews.com/your say. A lot of you are getting in touch about the generation gap, which is my favourite one as well. This is from Eileen. Good morning, Eileen. Saying, never mind young people not wanting to talk to a waitress. This is about Gen Z using scanning and codes rather than wanting waiting stuff. Never mind young people not wanting to talk to a waitress. Most of them don't talk to each other. My husband and I have visited our local pub and the young people sit at the table fixated with their phones. I said to my husband, put that phone down, Ben. I said to my husband, do you suppose they are texting each other? This must be affecting their brain developments. They don't seem to have any real communication skills, Ben Leo.
Sorry, what are you saying?
Exactly. See, that's what we mean.
But Nikki has responded to that. You say it's not just the youngsters who do that. Plenty of restaurants I've been to, adults do it as well, and it seems that the couples and families are all on their phones constantly. It's a bit of a...
Sorry, did you say something?
It's a bit of a... yeah, I see it a lot with kids, actually, with tablets. Maybe they, you know, people take their kids to restaurants and to keep them entertained, they bury their heads in tablets.
Yeah, it's...
as a parent, I can see... I don't do it, but I kind of sympathise with why people do, because it is an easy and a quick remedy, but it does rot their brains.
This is another one on the same subject as well. This is from GS. Sorry, I don't know your name. This is come on Twitter. I'm happily boycotting QR codes, cashless business, self-service tills, woke companies and any other similar propaganda nonsense. Lots of you are agreeing with that statement as well, because cash is going now.
Yeah, I hate going into restaurants with QR codes on the tables, ordering through the app, then the browser on your phone doesn't work, so you're refreshing, then you're trying to pay, and that doesn't... It's just like, I'm just going to leave it. I'll fast.
Just give me a paper menu and someone to talk to.
Talking about Oasis and their big reunion set to be announced tomorrow, I must say the majority of you contacting us on email and your say actually say you don't care about Oasis. FMOB, you say, sorry, Oasis were only successful because of their Beatles rip-offs. Liam Gallagher was just a John Lennon impressionist. Their melodies were also Beatle-like. I don't know why the copyright laws weren't mentioned, and I'm originally a Manc.
That is actually true. The husband's a huge Beatles fan and he says that as well. It was just like there was nothing that Oasis did that the Beatles hadn't done years before. Stuart, quite cynical as well. I'm seeing where you're coming from, Stuart. Oasis to reunite, translated, we're running out of money and our own projects aren't really working.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably, you know, close to it. Lots of you saying that one as well.
And someone says, why is Ben so orange?
He's not orange, he's just been on holiday. He tans really well. It's not, it's not fake. Actually.
I sat on it... No, it's not. I sat on a sunbed with Factor 6 carrot oil lotion, so there you go. And I've got Mediterranean skin, so I tan pretty easy.
Factor 6?
Yeah, I don't burn. Yeah.
Isn't that dangerous?
No.
Aren't you meant to be hiding away in the shade?
No, not for me. No.
Well, I'm married to a redhead who's like a vampire, avoids the sun like the plague. Right, OK, so stop waffling. So, Sir Keir Starmer is set to say Labour needs a decade to rebuild the country after the Conservatives left Britain in ruin and rubbles.
Yeah, and it comes, of course, as the Conservatives ask the Prime Minister to reveal who gave a Downing Street pass to a multi-millionaire who donated £500,000 to the Labour Party in the election campaign.
And Sir Keir is facing growing unrest within his own party over his plans to cut that winter fuel payment.
Former Labour advisor Kevin Meager joins us now. Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for joining us. Sir Keir Starmer tomorrow will say things can only get worse, which, let's be honest, is a complete polar opposite to Tony Blair's things can only get better in 97 and 98. Is he just bluffing, though?
I think what he's going to say is things can only get better eventually, and I think that's the big caveat. He's come into office and he's had some of his worst fears confirmed about public finances, the state of things, 14 years of dilapidation in public services, lots of industrial disputes that many of them are still unresolved. He's resolved a couple of them already, of course. Lots of things that need lots of money spent on them, lots of things that need better management. And what he's saying is, I can't do all of this in the next couple of years. It's going to take longer than that. And judge me about the progress that I make, but cut me some slack a little bit as well. That's basically what he's saying to the voters. I think Keir Starmer's team are acutely conscious of two things. One is that they've just won this election on 34% of the vote, which is pretty low for a parliamentary majority of 167. So he recognises that at the next election there's going to be an awful lot of very marginal seats that he's going to have to defend. So he wants to set some context about how he's going to try and govern over the next 5 years until that point. And the second thing, as I say, he's coming in, he's realised that the levers of government don't work. There is no cash. There's lots of things that are half done, half built, and lots of things that are falling down all over the place. So he sort of said, I've got a massive job of work to do. I've got to deliver, but to deliver effectively takes some time. So, cut me a bit of slack. That's basically what he's saying.
A minute though, Kevin. I mean, this 22 billion pound black hole that everybody else knew about because we were all warned about it beforehand. Various independent studies said, look, neither of your tax policies, whether you're Labour or Conservatives, are going to fill the black hole that is there. So we warned about it, and then suddenly it's like they come in, right, they take money away from pensioners, they give inflation-busting pay rises to the unions, who actually, let's be honest, donate an awful lot of money to Labour. So it's like there is money there. So it sounds like, to be honest with you, I'm going to be completely honest, it doesn't sound like the truth, that we have to be that hard on people, because there is money there, provided you're the sort of people that don't go on strike, i.e. pensioners.
Well, I mean, an important point, of course, is that the junior doctors with whom he's settled a long-running pay dispute are members of the BMA, which is, of course, nothing to do with the Labour Party whatsoever. So I mean, again, it's just illustrative of the fact that there's just so much that's gone wrong in recent years. We've seen the sort of chaos of the kind of Boris years and the Liz Truss years, and Rishi's trying to fix it at the very end there, not being able to get away with it. But he's got basically a fire to put out on every front you like, whether that's public transport, whether that's the NHS, whether it's our crumbling schools, whether it's our universities that are on the brink of bankruptcy one after the other. There's lots of problems to fix, not a lot of public money to fix them with. And of course, with all governments, the one thing you don't have a lot of is time. He's got 5 years until the next election. He's going to have to account for what he's done or what he's not done. And I think that will burn very bright in Keir Starmer's thinking. And I'm sure that's exactly what he's telling his team, his new ministers and his new MPs, is that we've got to focus like a laser beam on getting some of these things right, doing what we said we would do in our manifesto, and then going beyond it as well, so that when that next election comes around, we can have an account that we've made the country better than the inheritance that we were provided with by the Conservatives. Now, that's a very tall order. All governments, of course, want to do that to one degree or another. But his very political survival will depend on it, because, as I say, that majority looks very, very impressive in numerical terms, but the wiring underneath of the election result tells a very different story. It tells a story that actually, you've won with a very, very small share of the vote historically, and that you've got to keep on your toes, otherwise you could find yourself swept out just as easily as you're swept in.
What do you make of, Kevin, this growing cronyism row surrounding Labour and the government? They spent years, of course, Angela Rayner, Rachel Reeves, Keir Starmer, bashing the Tories for the wafting stench of sleaze through Downing Street, and it takes them just, you know, a little under a couple of months to do the same thing.
I think all governments have got to be very clear that actually, look, you will be judged by, you know, not just in word, but in deed as well. And you know, if you look as though you're packing favoured people into jobs, that's never going to be. You're never going to get away with that presentationally. Now, I think my view of party donors is keep them as far away from the centre of government as humanly possible. I think that's probably the good general advice. But of course, all governments don't do that. They, you know, donors, you know, often have often very close and have built very close relationships with party leaderships. This one is no different than in other ones.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. It's not just donors, it's former Labour Party aides, advisors, people who have donated to Angela Rayner, now given politically neutral civil service jobs in her department. Rachel Reeves hiring that top banker after he donated £5,000 to her personally. He's now stepped down, Ian Caulfield, his name. So it's not just donors, it's people who have worked with these cabinet members and these politicians for years and years and years, now given jobs where they're meant to be politically neutral.
I think you've got to be. All governments have got to be very careful. This government, particularly, because you know that we've seen with the Boris and Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak governments, lots of kind of ethics issues and crises over recent years. So this government's got to show that it's better. So I think you know the advice really needs to be very careful about bringing anybody in that you don't need to. You know, use the civil service. The British civil service is fabulous. You know, really committed, really expert people, and trust them and build a rapport with them. You don't need to bring in lots of people from the outside to be able to get results. Trust the civil service.
Very final quick question. You are a former Labour advisor. Ministers are facing a backbench rebellion over the planned cuts to winter fuel payments. Would your advice be to go back on this?
I think you've got to be very careful and judge what the cost-benefit analysis of doing anything like this. You move into this space, you upset an awful lot of people, and you've got to ask yourself, is it really worth it, the amounts of money that you raise? My take on it would be, no, it isn't.
OK, brilliant. Kevin, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yes, indeed. Right, up next, the other big event is the bank holiday weekend. Hope you're having a good one out there. And Notting Hill Carnival is underway. We had the children's parade yesterday. Today is the main parade. Unfortunately, it has already been marred by violence. A 32-year-old woman is fighting for her life after being stabbed at the festival yesterday. This is Britons Newsroom on GB News. Don't go too far.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Should footballers just stop taking the knee? It's time for our head-to-head.
I don't want to see people on their knees. I want to see the FA or UEFA or all of those FIFA all leading from the top. And that would be that if half of the players, and it's practically half of them, are of colour, why is that not even remotely replicated at the top? So to me, I just see it as an empty gesture. What is the point of it? It's been going on for years and still not much has happened. And the bottom line is this: these clubs are rich. Football is rich. Everything. If they really wanted to prosecute racists on the terraces, they really could, and they haven't. And they've had years to do it. So why would getting down on one knee now change it? It's not changing anything. It needs to start from the top, but it hasn't.
I do wonder, Jason, whether or not it has much of an impact. I mean, at the start of games or in the highlight shows, etc., match of the day, it does seem like, right, OK, so we'll take the knee and the commentator will go out of his way or her way to tell us what a wonderful thing this is. And, suspiciously at times I do wonder whether or not the fan sound goes down, because I've been at a few football games where it's not been that well received, but you don't tend to see that in the highlight shows. And then there might be a round of applause for something else, and there might be something else going on, and eventually we get a bit of football. Do the fans actually like this?
I don't know. You have to ask them, to be honest. I think there are many different people why they boo. That people do think it's virtual signalling, that it's done for show. But I think that it can only be a good thing in my mind that we are discussing this, and we all realise I think in 100 years' time this conversation could still be going on. There still needs to be work done. There still needs to make sure that the Argentinian national side to be singing racist songs about black African-American footballers that now play for the French national side are getting racially abused. That tells me only one thing, that the message is still not getting across.
GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. It's 11:20. This is Britain's Newsroom across the United Kingdom with Ben Leo and Dawn Newsom. Hope you're having a wonderful bank holiday Monday out there. Now it's time for, drumroll please, going through the papers. We have columnist and journalist Emma Wharf and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza in the house. In the house with us today.
This week.
Absolutely. We don't normally get that.
Well,
you can come back.
See, yeah, thank you very much. You're very kind.
all week.
Yeah, and actually,
I'm still smarting about mine.
Yeah. Oh God, don't you two start again. I actually want to start with the big event of the weekend. Lots of you are talking about it, which is the Notting Hill Carnival. It was the Kids' Day yesterday. And today is the main parade. Unfortunately, Emma, we saw, the unfortunate problems that we associate with Notting Hill Carnival.
Well, we saw several serious stabbings. We saw nearly 100 arrests we've seen so far. Today is the Adults' Day, Adults Parade with party vibes. If yesterday was a Children and Families Day, and quite frankly, the things that we saw going on there. Cycling in today, I saw a woman wearing pretty much nothing. She had 3 feathers strategically positioned on her body. That was in the streets of London. 3 feathers. I'll leave you to imagine where those feathers were positioned. I don't know what is family and fun and community inspired about this event.
Well, these pictures look quite nice. It's quite cultured and great costumes.
This is lovely, Ben, but there are also people almost virtually naked doing all sorts on the streets. We've had the stabbings, we've had arrests, we've had assaults on the police, we've had assaults on emergency workers. I really think that we need to look at what is happening at Carnival, what's going to happen today, and why people feel the need to kind of perpetrate this kind of violence and unrest at what should be a fun family event.
Matthew, have you ever been to Carnival?
I think I may have gone as a kid, but I haven't been for many years, partly just because it's obviously there are crimes that go on, but also just the sheer volume of people. One of the problems is it's slightly outgrown the streets of Notting Hill, where it started when Notting Hill was one of the first areas of London that the Afro-Caribbean community, where people arrived from the Caribbean in the 50s, lived in. And I wonder, maybe it would be better suited to go to one of the parks now, so that there's actually more space. Because, I mean, literally, what you see is shops closing because a lot of people are funnelled through what are effectively residential streets, quite a lot of them.
7,000 police officers on duty.
It's interesting. My husband was down there yesterday. He was helping a mate out with one of the sound systems, and he had a lovely time. It was, he said it was very peaceful. It was very calm. It wasn't crowded. People were having a good time. But he got talking to a couple of female police officers down there, and they were saying, "Yeah, it's lovely today. It's really nice, but it'll be a different story tomorrow, probably." And one of them, I don't think she was joking. She said, "Believe me, none of us volunteered to cover this shift." Okay. I think it's a very hard ask of the police down there.
And Dawn, it wasn't peaceful yesterday, and that was the peaceful day.
No, I'm just telling you the example of somebody was there, eyewitness. Well, what my husband saw was absolutely fine. It was very peaceful. Yes, there were instances going on. I accept that. But as I said, I suspect as the day went on and night fell, things do start picking up.
Last year it cost the police £11 million to protest, to police over the sort of 3 days.
Yeah.
However,
big whack of money.
It will lose what it's about if you move it to Hyde Park and it becomes like British Summertime Calling or something like that.
Yeah, it becomes much more commercialised if you have to have a wristband and, easier to police, but not the kind of community feel. And that's the balance to get, isn't it? Because obviously it began as a community celebration. In many ways it still is. People do their own floats, etc., don't they?
Yeah. OK, where do you want to go next?
Should we look at the other, talking of bank holiday, things to do on a bank bank holiday. A lot of people will be heading out after only after this show is finished, but and hopefully listen to GB News on the radio in the car. But if you're heading to a beauty spot, beware. Illegal sewage spills have occurred in more than 60% of England's areas of outstanding natural beauty last year. New analysis for the Telegraph has shown. So it's on very, very wet days, these releases of sewages are allowed, but it looks like the naughty water companies have been doing it on lots of days that were very far from very wet, and particularly holiday hotspots in Cornwall and the New Forest were hit, as well as others around the country. So more anger at the water companies from campaigners as they keep releasing sewage, and it seems to me that it takes campaigners to actually find out how often they're doing it.
And they're not getting punished, are they? They doesn't seem to be stopping.
Chief Executive of River Action said this shows lawlessness in a broken system. But the thing is, we're an island nation. We're surrounded by water. Surely we can do better than this. There were 450,000 total spills, lasting more than because they measure it to the amount of time the spillage is happening. 4 million hours last year. It's absolutely appalling. And the nicest thing is when you go and you find a really clear river or a lake or a lovely coastline. Why are we allowing them to get away with this? It's not as though it's been underreported. And the sewage issue is well known. These companies are making huge bonuses and paying out dividends to shareholders.
A campaigner for the Action for the River Kennet in North Wessex says that in Wiltshire, children are getting sick from swimming in baths. The worst affected area of outstanding national beauty was Dorset, where there were 149 separate spills on dry days. It just goes on and on and on. I think the anger is that, as you say, Dawn, the water companies seem to be getting away with it. Obviously, their finances of some of them, particularly Thames Water, are in crisis. So, you know, what do you do? And ultimately, of course, it's bill payers who end up footing the bill for water companies' mistakes. So it's not a very cheerful story for bank holiday. But if you are going out, you know, look at the water. You know, have a quick look at that water before you leap in.
You can't often see what is going on. Sometimes it's obvious. Don't need any more details, do you? But sometimes it isn't. OK, now this is a story that isn't going away. The Kirsty Allsop story about the social workers' text. This has been going for like 3 days in the papers now.
Yeah. So this is Kirsty Allsop's 15-year-old son Oscar, who went interrailing with a 16-year-old friend this summer. She was contacted. He was actually a few weeks away from his 16th birthday, so as if that makes any difference at all, that magical moment when you turn 16, when suddenly you're an adult and you can, you know, all of that. Anyway, she was contacted by Kensington and Chelsea Social Services by text saying they wanted to talk to her about this. I think people fall into two camps. There are people saying, this is absolutely outrageous, this is a child protection issue, he was only 15, all of that, ignoring the fact that they had mobile phones, they presumably had, you know, credit cards or debit cards, they were absolutely safe travelling around. The other side of it is people like me who just think the social services should be dealing with all the instances around the country of children living in neglect and poverty and domestic abuse situations. There are so many other priorities for social services. And also, as a parent, I know for a fact that you make a judgment about your child. My mum, who had 5 kids, said to me, look, you would have been fine to travel around Europe at 15, but your big brother wouldn't have been ready at 18 or 19. Children are quite different. A 15-year-old can be really, really responsible with a 16-year-old, or they can be utterly hapless, losing their passport and everything the minute they walk out the door. So I think you have to trust parents to some degree to know their own child.
No, I mean, I'm not Kirsty Allsop's #1 fan. She's one of those people, you know, she grates with me a bit on the telly. But I feel a bit sorry for her on this, although I do think she made a mistake by talking about it, because the problem is that social services will think the rules have to apply to everybody, and therefore this is technically illegal. So,
Hang on.
so it's not illegal, it's technically questionable, isn't it?
Interrail passes are available for anyone from the age of 12 to 27. She has done nothing
She's done nothing illegal.
She's done nothing illegal, Matthew.
And she knows her child best. You know, a lad who's nearly 16, as Emma says.
Really close.
I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, look, common sense needs to prevail, but sometimes the social services feel they have to imply the rules. They obviously think that there is, illegal is not right, but there's some questions that they need to ask in circumstances like this. Well, so if I was her, I would have kept stum.
Shame they don't do their due diligence where it matters most. The amount of stories
where
we've heard
there are
over
children
COVID of
who are
kids
covered
dying.
in cigarette burns, who have multiple broken limbs, who are not doing
Yeah,
their
no,
job.
I mean, social workers have a very hard job. I think that on this occasion, they felt forced to do it because of the publicity it got. But hopefully, they'll just leave it as it is, and they'll concentrate the resources, as you say,
She's
where
angry
they're needed.
because there's now a file open on her child.
Yeah, I mean, it's grim, but she probably should. I mean, if it was on, if the question was if he was 16, it would have been fine. If he's just under 16, it isn't. I would probably have just not talked to the national media
I
about
used to
it.
travel to London from Brighton alone when I was 12, 13, 14, by myself.
Me too.
Yeah, I used to travel from London to the northwest as well to see my dad. My parents are divorced, one in 200 miles away.
So, you say to the train driver, my kiddo's a bit younger, can you make sure they're OK? And, there's always...
You can't mollycoddle kids the whole
No,
time.
I'm pretty relaxed about the lad going on holiday. I just think that number one, he's going to be absolutely fuming at mum, isn't he?
Well, be careful what you put on social media.
Exactly.
If Kirsty hadn't put it out there, to be fair with,
that's my point.
Yeah, and I actually think
that isn't the point at all. That's not the point. The point is social services getting involved.
Well, I mean, you think of cases like Baby P.
Exactly.
Social services
and that's what upsets me.
Looking into cases like that rather than obviously if the 15-year-old.
Hopefully they're not using very many resources to investigate Kirsty.
That's the other
I do love Kirsty and Phil's show, though. Am I allowed to say that?
Do you like a bit of property?
I like
property show.
It always makes you just think, I want to go and buy that one. I want to go and buy that one.
Designs, location, I don't watch much telly apart from GB News, but if I
apart
do,
from GB News, which we watch constantly.
24/7.
It's very good. It's very good.
Or listen to it when you're not able to watch.
Yes, indeed. Yes, absolutely. Matthew, Emma, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Now it's time for the news headlines with Sophie Reaper.
Thanks, Dawn. It's 11:30. Now for your latest headlines from the GB Newsroom. A major incident has been declared after a fire broke out overnight at a block of flats in Dagenham. It's reported that over 100 people were evacuated from the building, with 2 people being taken to hospital. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper thanked firefighters and other emergency workers for their bravery and swift response. She said, "My thoughts are with all those affected by the major fire incident in Dagenham." This morning, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has laid flowers at a memorial site where 3 people were killed and 8 injured in a stabbing on Friday. The 26-year-old behind the attack in the city of Solingen has been named as Issa al-H. That was after he gave himself up to the police. The Syrian national is now being investigated by German federal prosecutors for links to the Islamic State. Italian prosecutors have placed the captain of the super yacht which sank off the coast of Sicily last week under investigation. It's been reported that James Cutfield, a 51-year-old New Zealand national, is being investigated for manslaughter and shipwreck. The vessel sinking led to the deaths of British tech magnate Mike Lynch and 6 other people. A British man killed by a missile strike in eastern Ukraine has been named as safety advisor Ryan Evans. The 38-year-old was part of a reporting crew working with the news agency Reuters when the hotel they were staying at in Kramatorsk was struck on Saturday. The agency has said they are devastated by his death and they are now urgently seeking more information about the attack. The strike also put 2 other journalists in hospital, one of whom remains in a serious condition. And closer to home, 3 people were stabbed yesterday at the annual Notting Hill Carnival, with 1 woman being left in a life-threatening condition. Police have also said that 15 officers were assaulted and 90 arrests were made on the first day of the event. Now, as the main parade starts to get underway today, a heavy police presence is expected on the streets of West London. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophie Reaper. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
But first, a snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3195 and 1.1802 euros. The price of gold is £1,913.16 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 8,327.78 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Now, a good show coming up for you. Good afternoon, Britain, with Tom and Emily reunited. Coming up after us.
Good's in the title.
Yes, really going to be a really good show. It's going to be 3 hours of celebrating Tom's birthday.
Oh, no.
Happy birthday to you. It's a birthday week, isn't it, for you too?
Yeah, because your birthday was a
summer
couple of
baby
weeks
as
ago.
well.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's, no, but I'm not going to go into numbers. I think sort of...
Go on, just depress me even further. You may as well.
Much younger than me.
I'm still just in my 20s, which I think is something I'm going to be clinging on to for dear life.
Oh, I did. I used to lie about my age, so I was 1 year younger.
I'm not at all looking...
Here's the thing.
Which is so ridiculous.
In 2024, you can basically minus 2 or 3 years from your age because of the pandemic. So we sort of cancel those years.
So he's basically a child.
He's still a child. And if I could borrow that, I'd just extend it by decades, so I'm still roughly about 30.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yes,
Very good.
Well.
There is news on the show.
Oh, is that? Okay,
yes,
good.
We do promise. We have lots of news. We have the Labour cronyism row to bring you. We're going to get the latest on that. This isn't going away. You can't just hand a pass to a top Labour donor and think you can get away without any questions. So we're going to be digging into that.
And this is something that I think is not well understood enough. Members of the Cabinet don't have a pass to Downing Street.
Very odd.
The only people that have a pass to Downing Street are the people that work in Downing Street. I mean, if you're the Environment Secretary, you have to be let in. Why is this donor swanning in and out?
It's not
just this chap, though, either. It's the hiring of civil servants who are meant to be politically neutral, who were previously aides to the Labour Party, aides to Angela Rayner, who donated to Rachel Reeves.
Someone hired into the propriety and ethics team in the civil service was working for a Labour think tank. I mean, it is extraordinary.
Also,
can you imagine if the Tories were doing anything close to this?
Also, what on earth is Keir Starmer thinking? If it's true that tomorrow he's going to say things are going to get worse before they get better.
I don't remember it in the manifesto, do you? Not exactly those words.
I don't remember that
It was all about growth and change and, we understand what you're going through. You can trust us. Grown-ups are back in the room.
I've got an awful feeling that this budget coming in October is going to be a horror show for people who are paying taxes in this country anyway. We're also going to be heading over to the Middle East because things are pretty much a tinderbox, aren't they? Could we see a regional fallout war over there? Hezbollah saying they're going to strike again, Israel saying they're going to strike again. What's going to happen there?
And this is the thing, when you get preemptive strikes and then post-emptive strikes and then everything, you can really see how it sort of starts to build up and up and up. And where is Iran in all of this? Obviously funding Hezbollah, but might they also get involved in some of that? So we know that the Western Security Alliance, the Five Eyes, are looking at this incredibly closely. It has huge repercussions for the whole world.
And one more thing I've got some views on, which I think you've already covered, is why on earth are teachers being told to teach about whiteness and taught to develop and project a positive white racial identity as a teacher? I mean, what on earth does that mean?
What does it mean?
What does that mean?
It's a word soup. And talking of which, why don't they just teach English and maths and geography and history, that sort of stuff?
Well, history,
old-fashioned.
Bit contested.
All of that and much more coming up at midday with Tom and Emily. You don't want to go too far. It sounds like a cracking show. But for now, this is Britain's Newsroom on GB News, and we'll see you very soon. You've got time to put the kettle on if you're quick.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It's drier and brighter for many today, a bank holiday for some of us, but there will be a few showers out there too, but generally feeling warmer with a bit more sunshine around. We're between weather systems at the moment. However, as we go through tonight and into Tuesday, we'll see further wet and windy weather moving in across the north and the west, but turning warmer in the southeast. For Monday afternoon, plenty of bright spells, some sunny spells too. Best of the sunshine across central southern parts of England and Wales. A weak weather front just giving some showery rain across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, northern England. Brighter skies for northern Scotland. Temperatures higher compared to the weekend. 17 to 20 in the north and low 20s further south and east, with highs around 23 Celsius towards London. Into this evening time, a fine end to the day across southern counties of England and Wales. Largely dry, temperatures in the low 20s and winds much lighter compared to the weekend. Thicker clouds starting to move into Northern Ireland, increasing risk of some rain here. Quite a lot of cloud across parts of northern England into Scotland, a few showers around, but a few glimmers of brightness and temperatures in the mid to high teens. As we go through into the evening time, thicker cloud outbreaks of rain push across Northern Ireland into western Scotland. The rain turning increasingly heavy as we head into the early hours. The wind's starting to pick up here too. Possible gales developing through the Irish Sea coastlines as we head towards the end of the night. Some bright echoes there, some heavy rain developing particularly across west and southwest Scotland, perhaps northwest England too. Further south and east, a dry night and fairly warm as we draw in some warmer air from the near continent with those southerly winds. For Tuesday, weather front sits across the north and the west, giving outbreaks of rain. Further southeast, it's dry and bright and warm. Plenty of hazy sunshine here, turning brighter behind it across Northern Ireland, western Scotland. Temperatures up to around 25 Celsius.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Arlene Foster on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning to you. It's 11:40 on this glorious bank holiday weekend. Hope you're well. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Ben Leo, and Dawn Neeson.
Look at me in that way, young man. Now, the National Trust for Scotland has launched an unprecedented offensive after a horse-harness racing track was approved for land where the Battle of Bannockburn was fought. GB News Scotland reporter Tony Maguire has the story for you.
More than 700 years ago, Robert the Bruce led 8,000 Scots to defeat Edward II's army here at the Battle of Bannockburn. The area remains largely undeveloped today, but local tensions flared when Stirling Council approved a controversial application to build a half-mile horse track in a field below the monument. The council vote was split. Public submissions were divided, and Historic Environment Scotland said it was broadly content with the plans, while the National Trust asked for government intervention. The Scottish Government has since stepped in to review the application. But one group that isn't divided are the visitors to Bannockburn.
Overall, I think it would detract from the area.
It's not respectful for the people who died here for the freedom of Scotland.
Because I just said to my husband, oh, look, there's a load of houses, and you think,
I love history, so I always think it's worth preserving.
Opponents to the redevelopment believe that readily building over sites of historical interest can have negative consequences to local culture and education, but the side at the other end of the debate are also fighting for their cultural survival. Behind the track is the Scottish Harness Racing Club. From 1966 to 2022, the club met at Stirling's Corbywood Stadium before it was demolished to make way for new homes. Of the two sites offered by the council to replace it, the alternative is at risk of flooding year-round. Hamish Muirhead and Alex Smith have been involved in this legacy sport their whole lives. Alex attended his first race 74 years ago, becoming a fan, an owner and a bookie, while Hamish breeds championship-winning horses, racing on tracks around the British Isles. They say this new track is their last chance to keep the sport alive in Scotland.
We had approached Stirling Council for information to where we could actually get a field where we could race. This was the only one which fitted the bill.
We've got to travel all the time to either York, Turf Prince or Amman Valley to race, because if we had a hard track in Scotland, we would get the chance to have some of these classic races here in Scotland. We are at the last chance saloon.
Both sides of this debate are fighting tooth and nail in the name of preservation. The Scottish Government has now called in the plans for review, and both sides are champing at the bit to hear if any route exists to protect both heritage and history. Tony Maguire, GB News, Stirling.
All right, still to come, it seems Gen Z doesn't want to talk to waiters at restaurants. I mean, it's no surprise to me. I remember the times when I used to work at a national newspaper. You'd have people coming straight from university with qualifications coming out with their ears.
Yes.
They couldn't pick up the phone, they couldn't knock on doors, they couldn't look you in the eye and hold a conversation.
No, indeed. And we've got an actual Gen Z type person on the show to defend what's going on.
This is Britons Newsroom on GB News. Back in a sec.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Soya, almond, oats, hazelnut, coconut milk.
Yeah.
It's now much more difficult to choose.
Yeah, there's an awful lot out there on the market. So how do you feel about horse milk? Yes, you heard that right. For generations, people in Central Asia have sworn by horse milk and the supposed health benefits. And now researchers in Poland believe it should even be used in ice cream. For the sweet treat not only tastes delicious, apparently, but could also be good for your gut.
OK, well, joining us now to give us the lowdown on why we should be considering switching over to horse milk is farmer Frank Shellard from Cromwell Farm, Britain's only horse dairy. Good morning, Frank. Look, you're an expert on all things milk. You've even written a book on it. Is horse milk good for you? How does it compare nutritionally, first of all, to cow's milk?
I think the big difference is, just to make the point from the very start, cows, sheep and goats and all those other alternative milks have got 4 stomachs. Horse has got a single stomach, so a lot of the enzymes and a lot of the makeup of the milk is very similar to mother's milk. So our bodies are a lot more able, us being a single stomach animal, if you like, to digest that milk. So that's the big thing. That's the first point I'd like to make. Because of the makeup of the mare's milk, you could drink the lactose and the lactase in it. You could probably, not all, don't quote with everybody, but a big percentage of those people that are lactose intolerant could drink the mare's milk. The great thing about the mare's milk is it's very, very good for your gut flora. If you remember in the history books, Cleopatra bathed in ass's milk, and ass's milk is exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same makeup as mare's milk, and she bathed in it for eternal youth and to keep the skin and her metabolism correct.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. 10:47. Ben and Dawn with you on Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Some very quick emails have been flying in. Jeremy talking about Kirsty Allsop's 15-year-old son, who was nearly 16, who went interrailing across Europe by himself, well, with another friend who was 16. Social services got involved, of course. Jeremy, you say her son was accompanied by a 16-year-old. If the powers that be want the voting age lowered to 16, they have to accept that teenagers of this age are responsible enough to look after themselves. Yeah, agreed.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy says, but Labour are saying all 16-year-olds are responsible. Otherwise, why are they giving them the vote to decide who runs the country? Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, and the Kirsty Allsop story has all gotten you involved as well. Padraig says, Kirsty, is all this fuss because she's a celebrity? No, it's not. It's because it's like social services trying to tell someone, don't care if they're a celebrity or not, what they think is best when really there are cases that are being ignored where children are genuinely suffering. That's the point of the story. However, I think the interesting point about this is Kirsty Allsop is a celebrity and obviously very well known. Now, if this had been a single mum from a sinky state, would people be so, oh my God, of course she knows what's right for her child? I bet they wouldn't, would they?
What you mean, say like a working class mum?
Yeah, I bet if it's a working class mum who'd let a 15-year-old go off, people would be outraged about that.
Yeah.
I do wonder about that one, I must admit.
Talking about Starmer's speech tomorrow, of course, if you didn't know, he's giving this big bombshell speech saying that, again, I mean, similar to what Rachel Reeves has been saying, they didn't know the country was in such a mess. The Tories have left the nation in rotten ruin, and it's going to take him 10 years to get the job done. Gary, you say, if it's going to take 10 years of hurt before the country's back on its feet, then surely pensioners are the ones you shouldn't pick on. And Jeff, you say Starmer, with only 34% of the electorate and pensioners not voting, Starmer has already lost the next election. So, as did Gordon Brown, we'll spend every available penny on those that support us or vote for us.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Sorry, I've lost your name here. But they say on the Kirsty Allsop story, again, interesting that a lot of people on the left getting the Nixon and twist about Kirsty Allsop, whose lad was like just shy of his 16th birthday. They're also the people that want 16-year-olds to vote.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, OK, talking of youngsters, Gen Z diners don't want to speak to waiters in restaurants and prefer to order and pay via mobile apps. Well, I'm not sure of this one, but the managing director of Bill's Restaurants has said a growing number of young customers do not want to engage with human beings because they have grown up literally on their phones. So we're going to talk to a proper young person now, even younger than you. Commentator Ryan Mark Parsons joins us about, frankly, you're being a bit rude here, aren't you? Come on, what's wrong with talking to a waiter?
Well, I like talking to waiters, actually. I think I'm a bit of an anomaly when it comes to my generation. I'm Gen Z. I was born in 2000. And when I go to restaurants, cafes, any kind of service within hospitality, I actually enjoy the conversation with the waiting staff. I like making eye contact with them. I like finding out about their day. I tell them about my day. I go to a members club in London, and unfortunately, they have an app, and it seems to be the case that they want you to pay on the app, and they're reducing the contact that you have with waiting staff. All of my friends, I've got friends similar ages, early 20s. Anytime we go out, whether it's a bar or a restaurant, they always, invariably, they prefer to deal with the bill on the app, or they would like to order on an app. So they have absolutely no interaction whatsoever with the staff that work there. And I just don't get it. I think it's rude. And it's like you said, Ben, before the ad break, young people are now lacking social skills. They can't look in someone else's eyes. They can't pick up the phone. They can't knock on doors. They just can't interact with people in real life. And I think that is such a shame, but it's becoming more and more common.
What's the solution then? How can parents kind of get a grip of this in the early years, do you reckon?
I just think they need to reduce the contact time with digital devices. And I think it'd be great as well. I don't know if many restaurants have this, but to have restaurants, more and more restaurants across London and other cities around the UK, to ban phones, essentially. I mean, I've been to dinner parties where they might be hosted at homes or they could be hosted at restaurants. And the rule we have is that we put all of the phones in a basket and then we actually have to talk to each other. And I think that's great. And it seems to be, unfortunately, a rarity nowadays where you can't actually just have a conversation with someone sat in front of you, actually there, not two-dimensional chats, and you can actually talk to the people that work in a restaurant. I think that seems to be so rare, and I don't know why. But answering your question, I think parents need to remove devices from an early age. I've got a younger cousin, and she already has an iPad. She must be about 4 years old, and she's got I'm sure she'll get an iPhone next year as well. And I think that's what parents are actually introducing very early on, and that's the problem.
I love that idea of putting all your phones in a basket so you literally have to sit and talk to each other, because you get families sort of like all on their phones, on the devices around a dining table. Do you think this problem is getting worse? You mentioned your cousin who's 4 already learning how to be engaged in a screen but not engaging with people. I mean, how is that going to help a vocabulary for a start?
Well, that's it. And just the art of conversation, the art of interacting with people, I think it's really underestimated. And you can't just have conversations, whether you like it or not, over the phone constantly. You actually do need to converse with people in real life. And I've been on GB News before to talk about this and the whole discussion over working from home and whether it's a good idea to come into the office. And I truly think it's detrimental, especially for graduates fresh out of university, early 20s, you're starting an apprenticeship, and you're just starting your job.
Right, I'm going to have to cut you off. Thank you though for joining us. Really appreciate it, and thank you at home for watching us this morning. Hope you've had fun.
Andrew's back tomorrow, by the way.
Have a great bank holiday. Good afternoon, Britain, with Tom and Emily is coming up next.
And we'll be live in Dagenham after a shocking fire ripped through a large building in that London borough overnight. What started it and what answers can we find?
Yes, indeed. And the Italian press is reporting that the captain of the sunken super yacht in Sicily is currently being investigated for manslaughter and shipwreck. We'll have the latest on that one too.
All that amidst a cronyism row burgeoning within the Labour Party and the government. The passes for glasses scandal rumbles on. We'll dig into the details.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, today, for most of us, it should be largely dry with some spells of sunshine, but there are some showers around, chiefly across parts of Northern England, Northern Ireland and Wales. But I think almost anywhere we could just see the odd shower as we go through the course of the day. But for most, it will be a day of sunny spells, and with lighter winds compared to lately, I think it should feel fairly warm out there as well. I think highs potentially reaching around 22 or 23 degrees down towards the southeastern corner. So as we end the bank holiday for some of us across the southern half of the UK, it should be largely fine and dry. Some late spells of sunshine to be had. Can't rule out the odd shower, especially down towards southwest England and Wales, but they should be fairly light and fleeting. More of a risk of a shower or two across Northern Ireland, Northern England and southern Scotland. And then moving up towards the far north of Scotland here should be a fine and dry end to the day. But all eyes out towards the west, you can see this next band